Chapter 1899. On the second day after Sher Shang entered the city, the eldest prince sent someone to invite her. She swaggered in with the Zhanlong guards. If the eldest prince didn't know, then he shouldn't be the eldest prince. He should just be a farmer. Shi Fang politely refused, indicating that he didn't want to see the eldest prince. The visitor was obviously angry and started arguing outside the door. Even if the Shi family is powerful in the Nether Galaxy, this is the Red Moon Galaxy. Our eldest prince has the final say. Inviting her is already very polite. Don't be unreasonable. Shi Fang's face also darkened. If the family head says he won't see any guests, then he won't see any guests. Please leave. Newborn calves aren't afraid of tigers. Even the king of the Red Moon Galaxy wouldn't dare to speak so rudely. Did he really think that the family head's prestige was picked up from the ground? Who do you think you are? Let her out. The visitor didn't seem to have any intention of leaving. Instead, he moved closer and looked like he was going to force his way in. The Zhanlong guards immediately blocked the door. The atmosphere was tense. Both sides were about to start a war. At this moment, a young lady quickly ran out from the Zhanlong guards. The metallic objects on her skirt were clanking loudly. The little girl pounced on Shi Fang's leg and hugged it tightly. She looked up at Shi Fang. Shi Fang, master wants you to kill them. The Zhanlong guards were originally defensive. After hearing Shen Xing's words, they immediately got into an attacking posture. As long as Shi Fang agreed, they would immediately take the lives of those people. When the other party saw this, they looked at each other. Let's go. They had heard of the Zhanlong guards' prestige. They thought that since this was their territory, they should at least be careful. But obviously, they were wrong. They didn't know what the eldest prince was thinking. He actually came personally. Family head, do you want to see him? Shi Fang didn't dare to let anyone in. He first asked Shi Sheng. He came personally. Wouldn't it be impolite to not see him? Let him in. The eldest prince was invited to the temporary meeting place. He looked around. This place was expensive and couldn't be bought with money. But that woman actually had a property here. Eldest prince, she's too much. She made us wait here. You're a prince. There were people around the first prince who were indignant. It had always been others who waited for the first prince. When had it ever been the first prince's turn? The eldest prince's eyebrows were somewhat similar to Jonah's, but compared to Jonah's slender figure, the eldest prince was much taller. Shut up. The eldest prince scolded. What do you know? Why do you think she's so famous in the galaxy? But the first prince glared at him, and that person bitterly swallowed his words. The space quieted down, and the eldest prince waited patiently. Although the others were impatient, what else could they say when the first prince didn't say anything? They could only curse Shi Shang in their hearts. About 10 minutes later, the Zhanlong guards filed in from the outside and lined up in 2 rows. The golden dragon pattern on their cloaks was arrogant and domineering. She entered through the door in a long black dress. The hem of the dress was embroidered with strange red patterns. As the hem of the dress swayed, the patterns would bloom from time to time. It was very beautiful. The eldest prince stared at the girl who walked out from the middle of the Zhanlong guards. He had heard of her name a long time ago. At that time, when everyone mentioned her, they all wanted to bite off a piece of her flesh. However, this was the first time he had seen this legendary figure. He didn't expect her to be so young. Shi family head. The eldest prince stood up and walked over to Shi Sheng. He stretched out his hand. I didn't know that Shi family head had come to Zite City. Please forgive me for not going out to meet you. Shi Shang looked at his hand and didn't move. Did the eldest prince come personally to welcome me? The eldest prince was a little embarrassed, and the people around him were about to explode. Their eldest prince stretched out his hand, and she actually dared to ignore it. Shi Shang, don't be rude. Someone couldn't help but scold. Shi Shang's gaze drifted over, and the Zhanlong guards immediately moved. That person didn't even know how Shi Shang appeared beside her, and in the next second, she was already on the ground. Everyone, Sher Shang acted as if nothing had happened, and walked to the main seat. If the eldest prince has anything to say, just say it. I'm very busy. The eldest prince didn't say anything. He clenched his hand into a fist and retracted it. Sher family head, I wonder what business you have in Zite City? You even have General Carlo's pass. Shouldn't Sher family head give me an explanation? Which rule says that I can't come to Zite City? Or which rule says that I have to report to the eldest prince before I can come to Zite City? Sher Shang's lips curled into an evil smile. As for why I have General Bane's pass, you'll have to ask Bane yourself. Bane? Who was that? Wasn't he talking about Carlo? Oh, right. Carlo's surname was Bane. Everyone else was called Carlo, but she was called Bane. Did that make her seem different? Carlo was now in the sky. Was he going to fly to the sky and ask? The eldest prince continued to suppress his anger, and used his eyes to signal the people behind him who were about to explode to not act rashly. I don't mean anything else. Sher family head has come from afar. If there's anything I can help with, as the host, I naturally have to help. Sher Shang raised his hand to stop him. Enough with the pleasantries. You don't have to test me. If I want to do something to your Red Crescent Galaxy, it's useless even if you know. The eldest prince had been dealing with the royal family for many years, and was already used to such a way of speaking. Now that he had suddenly met someone like Sher Shang, who didn't play by the rules, his thoughts couldn't keep up. However, the others only had one thought: arrogance. What AF * king arrogance? The eldest prince was also on the verge of exploding. However, when he saw the imposing aura of the Zhanlong guards, he could only grit his teeth and say, Sher family head, if there's anything I can help with, please let me know. Who asked her to have the Zhanlong guards? Who asked her to be so powerful? Sure. Sher Shang continued, just nice, there's something that the eldest prince can help with. The eldest prince's blood rushed to his head. Do you have any shame? I was just being polite. However, since he had already said it, the eldest prince couldn't take it back. On second thought, he might be able to find out her motive for coming here, so it wasn't a bad thing. Sher Shang's mouth twitched, and his crisp voice sounded, Now, eldest prince, please turn around and take your people with you. Quickly get lost. The eldest prince suspected that he had heard wrongly. He looked at the people beside him and saw that their faces were about to spit fire. He knew that he wasn't hallucinating. She really told him to get lost. Very good. She was the first person who dared to tell him to get lost. The eldest prince glanced at Sher Shang, and his voice seemed to contain a knife. Sher family head, goodbye. Sher Shang waved at him. I won't see you out. The veins on the eldest prince's forehead throbbed violently. He was so angry. He didn't manage to find out her motive, and instead, he suffered such a huge blow. The eldest prince was extremely sullen. Chapter 1900. After being kicked out of the house, the eldest prince and his men looked exactly the same. Eldest prince, are we just going to let it go? Or are you going to go back and slap her? The eldest prince said and slapped the man who asked the question. The man was stunned. He covered his face and looked at the eldest prince who was striding forward. Why did he hit him? His colleagues patted him sympathetically. The eldest prince was in a fit of anger, and you still went up to him. Were you looking for a beating? The eldest prince stopped after walking a short distance. Eldest prince, we found the third prince. The eldest prince was in a bad mood, but when he heard the news, he felt much better. Where is he? Not far from Zite City. He's heading towards it. The eldest prince sneered. Very good. Since he came back to die, don't blame me. Set up a trap. This time, he's not allowed to escape. The eldest prince had captured Jonah alive. Sher Shang heard the news 3 days later. According to Sher Fang's description, when Jonah was captured, he was covered in wounds. A normal person wouldn't have been able to survive, but he was still alive. Just like how he hadn't died after flying for so long on the infinity. Hashtag miraculous third prince Jonah. Hashtag even more miraculously, the day after the eldest prince had captured Jonah, news of his sudden death spread. Sher Shang thought it was an excuse for the eldest prince to kill Jonah, but he found out that Jonah was really dead. What do you think? Sher Shang asked Shi Fong. Shi Fong had Shunqing strapped to his leg. He thought for a moment. Jonah wouldn't have had a good ending if he was captured by the eldest prince. Could he have faked his death? Would the eldest prince be that stupid? Shunqing questioned softly. It wasn't easy for a corpse to come back to life. The royal family was full of the eldest prince's men. If Jonah really had faked his death, how could he be sure that he would succeed? Shi Shang said softly, Jonah still has a trump card. What is it? Shunqing was curious. Shi Shang snorted. He's a girl. Shunqing's eyes widened. Even Shi Fong was surprised. Jonah was raised as a man, not for the sake of power and profit. Instead, it was because when he was born, it seemed that the royal family was negotiating with a race. In order to rope in this race for their own use, the Red Moon King at that time promised that the first princess of the royal family would be betrothed to them. At that time, there were 2 women in the Red Moon King's harem who were pregnant. One of them was Jonah's mother. Although that race was brave and skilled in battle and would be a great help to the Red Crescent Galaxy once they were subdued, they were extremely ugly. Jonah's mother was unwilling to betroth her daughter to such a race, so when she found out that she had a daughter, she chose to hide the child's gender. The other woman also gave birth to a boy. The Scarlet Moon Monarch really wanted to subdue that race, so she took a girl from a side branch who had just been born. She said that she and the prince were twins and betrothed her to that race. Jonah had already been identified as a man and could not be changed. She could only live with this identity. When Shi Shang said that her identity would be exposed, he meant that she was a woman. There were still many secrets to this. For example, how did Jonah's mother manage to hide Jonah from the machine's detection? For example, how did Jonah's mother not discover that he was a girl all these years? Of course, these were none of Shi Shang's business and she did not care. Naturally, she would not delve too deeply into it. The universe was vast and endless and contained all things. There were far more mysterious powers than what they had explored. Master, are you saying that she will use her identity as a girl to escape? Who knows? It's none of our business. Shi Shang spread his hands. Shi Fong, Shunqing, Zero has been very quiet recently. Shi Shang changed the topic. Did you notice anything strange? There have been more patrols on the streets recently. I don't know if it's because of Jonah or... Shi Shang understood what Shi Fong didn't say. She spoke indifferently. Zero wants to kill me, but so do I. The curtains are about to fall on this battle. I'm really looking forward to seeing the final winner. Shi Fong's heart sank. When he was following the master, he always felt that it was not a big deal. There was nothing that the master could not solve. But now, he realized that this matter was actually very serious. There would only be one winner between Zero and the master. Master will win for sure, Shunqing said crisply. In my heart, Master is the best. Shi Shang waved for Shunqing to come over. Shunqing immediately let go of her thigh and ran to Shi Shang. She looked up at him. Shi Shang reached out and patted her little head. As long as you don't screw up, I still have a 90% chance of winning. Shunqing's little face tensed up. She pouted. I won't screw up. Shi Shang asked Shi Fong to leave first. Shi Fong felt that the master and Shunqing were hiding something from him, but he did not dare to ask. He left the room angrily. Feng Ci just happened to be outside the door. He was holding a few exquisite pastries. The milky fragrance could be smelled from afar. The surface of the pastries seemed to be emitting steam. Although Shi Fong did not want to stop this person, Shi Shang had ordered not to let anyone in. He could only force himself to stop him. Young master, the master and Shunqing have something to discuss. Can you wait for a moment? Why did he have to face this pervert? He was much scarier than the master. Feng Ci frowned slightly and looked at the tightly shut door. Shi Feng thought he was going to get angry. Who knew that he would take the pastries and sit down on the side? He did not make a fuss. Shi Feng breathed a sigh of relief. Serving this person was harder than serving Shi Sheng. Shi Feng was shocked. He looked up at the young man. He was staring straight at him. Shi Feng was horrified. What was he doing? Was he going to kill him while the master was not here? Come here. Feng Xi's expression was cold. Shi Feng could not tell whether he was happy or angry. He could not figure out what he was thinking. Should he go over? Or not? If he was killed and he screamed for help, would the master help the young master or him? With how much the master doted on him, he would be the unlucky one. Shi Feng struggled in his heart. In the end, he walked over. Young master, what's the matter? Sit. Shi Feng looked at Feng Xi, flattered. He actually asked him to sit? Did he hear wrong? Clearly, Shi Feng did not hear wrong. Feng Xi said again. Shi Feng was very nervous. How could he dare to sit? Young master, if you have something to say, just say it. You're making me very nervous. This is even scarier than when he killed me with his gaze. Feng Xi did not force him. He supported his chin with one hand. Tell me about Xiao Shang's past life. Hearing this, Shi Feng was stunned. Master's past life? In his mind, he replayed the chaotic life he had in the past. Why did he suddenly feel a little nostalgic? She offended people all over the galaxy. Shi Feng's voice was low. After all, this was not something to brag about. Feng Xi clearly did not want to hear this. Before this. Shi Feng's expression changed slightly. Young master, I don't dare to speak carelessly. You should ask the master yourself. I still have some things to take care of. I'll take my leave first. He was afraid that Feng Xi would force him to stay, so he left as quickly as possible. Feng Xi looked in the direction Shi Feng left with a heavy gaze. So many people knew about her past and participated in her life. He was the only one who knew nothing. The table Feng Xi's palm touched suddenly cracked and shattered into countless pieces. The exquisite pastries were buried in it. Shi Shang glanced around and said, Let's split up and gather in 2 hours. Those who are late will find a way to return to the blue planet. Yes. The Zhanlong guards immediately rushed into the cannon fodder. Master, be careful. Shi Feng looked deeply at Shi Shang and left with his men. Soon, only Shi Shang and Feng Xi were left. The attacks outside were fierce, and the house was on the verge of collapse. Shi Shang took out his iron sword and carried Feng Xi forward. He stepped on the iron sword and rushed out of the window. The cold wind hurt a little when it hit her face, but it was nothing compared to the attacks raining down on her. Shi Shang controlled the iron sword to fly to the highest point. The attack range of these things could circle around Zite City. It was the first time she was annoyed that the galactic technology was too advanced. If this was before the galactic era, she wouldn't have needed to fly so high. Where are we going now? Feng Xi looked down from time to time. He could only see the thick clouds and the occasional flashes of light. We're going to visit the mainframe. Huh? Mainframe? Zero. Feng Xi was curious about Zero. So many people in the galactic era couldn't do anything to Shi Shang. Only Zero dared to provoke Shi Shang time and time again, so he was very curious. You've been busy with this matter recently? In the past few days, Shi Shang and Shi Feng had been talking a lot. Although he was also present, sometimes he didn't pay attention to what they were talking about. He only heard 1 or 2 sentences occasionally. But most of the time, it was just a discussion. But today, Shi Shang had obviously expected this. Or rather, she had been waiting for this day. Sure. Shi Shang reached out and pressed Feng Xi's lips. Ask later. Feng Xi nodded. Shi Shang let go of his hand and controlled the iron sword to descend. After falling out of the clouds, it was completely dark below. There was no light at all. All the buildings here were square. The distance between each building was the same. Even the height and appearance of the buildings were the same. Shi Shang brought Feng Ci to the center of the buildings. Silence. Eerie. This was Feng Ci's first impression. Shi Shang took out his God Travel, which he hadn't used for a long time. The interface showed a route. Shi Shang identified the direction and led Feng Ci along the route. The route led to the bottom of the buildings. The surveillance cameras on the buildings were obviously still running. They moved according to Shi Shang and Feng Ci's movements. Shi Shang didn't care about the cameras at all. He violently entered the buildings and headed underground. There might be a fight later. Stand back. Shi Shang reminded Feng Ci before he went down. He didn't need to worry about Feng Ci's combat ability, so he just needed to stand back. Feng Ci didn't dare to say that he wanted to help. He nodded obediently, indicating that he would stand back. Shi Shang kicked open the first door leading underground. The passageway was already filled with combat robots. When Shi Shang went in, the robots were immediately activated. These robots were no different from real people, but their combat ability was twice that of real people. Shi Shang cleared the way through the passageway. The robots were constantly destroyed. Feng Ci slowly followed behind Shi Shang like a young master watching a show. However, wherever he went, the robots that were still moving would be instantly extinguished. They couldn't move anymore. The robots underground were counted in batches. At the end, there were also humans who were being controlled. Most of them were humans with supernatural abilities. However, it was impossible for them to stop Shi Shang. Shi Shang killed her way to the end with flashes of lightning and thunder. Shi Shang stood in front of the last door. The God Travel map showed that this was the final destination. Without hesitation, she used her iron sword to hack open the door. The door collapsed. There was only one screen behind the door. At this moment, the screen was showing a countdown. The moment the door fell, the countdown reached 0. White light shot out from the door and swallowed Shi Shang's figure. #hashtag today, please vote for Delphinium flavored #hurry up and vote. Those who are in the top 100 of the QQ reading fan list, hurry up and join the welfare group. Also, the flipping of cards had to be stopped. There were too many things to do. Chapter 1902. The breeze was gentle, and the spring sun was just right. Everywhere was filled with vitality. Shi Shang was standing on a large lawn. There seemed to be a figure walking around in the distance. The blurry figure waved at her. She seemed to hear a familiar voice that she hadn't heard for many years. "Baby, come here. I'm going to take a picture. Run slowly. Be careful not to fall." The voice echoed in her ears. Every voice was so familiar. It became clearer and clearer, as if it was right beside her ears. However, Shi Shang's face was expressionless. She looked at the blurry figure, raised her sword, and swung it down. The scene in front of her rippled like water and gradually disappeared. It seemed that another scene was about to appear. Shi Shang swung his sword again with a cold face. The ripples became stronger and stronger. Finally, it couldn't be maintained any longer. All the blurry scenes disappeared. The scene in front of her darkened, and the room returned to normal. She was still standing at the door. Feng Ci was still standing in the distance. He seemed to want to rush over, but when he saw her, he stopped in his tracks. It only took a few seconds. Shi Shang took a deep breath, stepped into the room, and stared at the screen. Shi Shang stabbed the iron sword into the ground and sneered, "0, it's already so late. Why aren't you coming out?" As expected of the head of the Shi family, the rigid electronic voice sounded, "You can be so indifferent in front of your own family. It seems that the outside world's evaluation of you is not completely unreasonable." Shi Shang continued to sneer, "You're looking down on me by using the dead to deal with me." She could even distinguish the virtual world from the real world, let alone now. 0 was a little angry. This trick of his would work on anyone, but it didn't work on her. She actually dared to say that he looked down on her. Wasn't this a case of the guilty party complaining first? Zero said in the monotonous electronic voice, "Deep down, you don't want them to be alive, right? What does it have to do with you whether I want them to live or not? Are you going to give up on your career and come talk to me about my family matters?" Shi Shang's tone was very blunt. Zero was silent for a few seconds before it continued. "I'm also surprised that you could find this place. I've underestimated you." Shi Shang held the iron sword and rotated it gently. Her faint smile was faintly discernible in the dim light. "You still underestimate me in many ways. Patriarch Shi, don't be too confident. Since I dared to stay here, I definitely have the confidence to leave safely." Zero's voice echoed in the empty room. "There are explosives buried below. As long as I stop working, it will explode. When that happens, the entire planet will be blown up. Family head Shi won't be able to escape." "That's amazing," Shi Shang exclaimed exaggeratedly. He should be proud of being praised, but Zero only felt a sense of heaviness. The woman in front of him didn't seem nervous at all. She didn't seem to be pretending to be relaxed. She really didn't care. Zero suddenly felt a little nervous. Soon, it heard her say arrogantly, "So what if it exploded? I'm not the one who died. I still have some means to protect myself." She wasn't afraid even if it wanted to blow up the universe, let alone this planet. As the head of the Shi family, she could open a passage to another world at any time. What did she have to be afraid of? As for the people on the blue planet, if a destructive disaster really happened, those old farts would work together to open a passage and send them away. Therefore, she had nothing to be afraid of. "You. What do you want?" Zero hesitated. Shi Shang shrugged. "Those who work for me will be spared. Those who don't will be killed. As the mainframe, don't you understand this principle very well? Why are you asking me such a stupid question? In the virtual world, you tried to kill me time and time again. Do you think I won't take revenge? Do you think I'm such a magnanimous person?" Shi Shang threw 3 sentences at Zero in a row. It was as if Zero had a short circuit and didn't reply for a while. "What can you do to me?" Zero calmed down. As long as she touched it, this planet would be turned into ashes. No one would be able to escape. Zero secretly prepared to retreat, but it found that all the safe passages it left behind were blocked. No matter which direction it went, it couldn't pass through. It couldn't unlock the layers of encrypted passages. It was the mainframe. How was this possible? That's right. It was it. Shi Shang's eyebrows curved. He called out softly, "Shenxing." Shenxing's virtual image appeared on the screen. Zero remembered that Shenxing was the one who broke through the obstacles it set up time and time again, allowing her to pass through unimpeded. As the mainframe, Zero had never been provoked like this before. "Master, mission accomplished," Shenxing reported to Shi Shang softly. Its face was full of praise. Zero had escaped last time. This time, with the help of its master, she wouldn't let it escape again. Zero tried its best to rush out, but the encryption method set by Shenxing was very unfamiliar. It couldn't crack it at all, at least not in a short time. This wasn't the worst thing. The worst thing was that she let the virus in. Although it wasn't fatal to Zero, it would delay it. It was more like she let it in to disgust it. "What do you want?" Zero raised its voice. "Didn't you want to blow up this place? I'm helping you. You don't have to thank me." Shi Shang smiled. "Zero, why was there such a person who didn't play by the rules? It was threatening her, but she was helping it? You planned this from the start?" Zero gritted its teeth. It didn't expect to be schemed against. Shi Shang sneered. "You're not the only one who knows how to scheme against others. Do you really think I'm an idiot? That I would let you scheme against me? F***ck, you're retarded. Do you think I am so easy to scheme against? You didn't come to the Red Crescent Galaxy to look for Xia Chu. Of course, Shi Shang admitted without hesitation. Zero gritted its teeth. You don't trust Caesar at all. He knew what they were doing outside. She let him know on purpose, thinking that she was here to look for Xia Chu, who knew that she was here for him from the start. Shi Shang spread his hands. I never trusted him. She had said before that she couldn't trust a single word Caesar said. Zero pondered for a moment. It still had many questions. When did you realize that something was wrong with Jonah? Oh, Jonah is one of your men. Shi Shang was a little surprised. He spread his hands innocently and smiled evilly. I didn't know. I just don't like to poke my nose into other people's business. This was a beautiful accident. Shi Shang touched his chin and muttered, looks like it was the right choice to not poke my nose into other people's business. Zero almost went crazy with anger. It was afraid that she would see through it, so it hid its control over Jonah very well. It was true that Jonah wanted to return to Zite City. As long as she was with her, it could do anything. But she didn't bring Jonah with her. It thought that she had seen through it and deliberately let Jonah die to dispel her suspicions. Who knew that it was so busy that she didn't even know? She simply didn't want to bring Jonah with her. How infuriating. Question and answer time is over, Shi Shang suddenly said. What? Beep beep beep. The entire space suddenly rang with beeping sounds. Chapter 1903. Master, it's solved. Shen Xing's crisp voice shocked Zero. Countless numbers of data surged towards him, and Zero was almost drowned in them. It thought that it was stalling for time, but she was doing the same. She was stalling for time for that artificial intelligence. Shi Shang pulled out his iron sword, and Shen Xing's image disappeared from the screen. All sorts of random codes were jumping on the screen. She walked out, and her voice rang out. You're just a creation of humans. You're omnipotent on the internet, but without the internet, you're nothing. She waved her hand in the air. Do you think this is the end? Zero's voice was intermittent, but it was piercing. Do you think this is the end? Shi Shang turned around and stood at the door. A light smile hung on her lips as she spoke in a powerful voice. Of course it's not over. The Zero I've met before was a mainframe that was just and fair, not a nondescript thing like you. I'm the mainframe. Zero roared. Fine, fine, fine. You are. Shi Shang waved his hand casually and closed the door. Then you can take your time being the mainframe. Retard. Let's go. Shi Shang pulled Feng Ci and ran out. Shen Xing appeared out of nowhere, and as it ran, the clanking sound of metal rang through the night. They left the underground, and the Zhanlong guards had already arrived. They were anxiously waiting for them, and when they saw Shi Shang come out, they quickly surrounded him. Master, mission accomplished. Mission accomplished. Mission accomplished. Is everyone here? Shi Shang asked as he released the Limitless. The Limitless knocked down many buildings, and the rumbling sound was endless. The Zhanlong guards looked at the familiar faces around them. The executive isn't here yet. Shi Feng was trapped. The attacks outside were too fierce, and he couldn't rush out. I'm sorry, executive. It's all my fault. The chef held his weapon, and stood back to back with Shi Feng. He was full of guilt. Shi Feng's expression was cold. Stop talking nonsense. The master is still waiting for us. The chef looked outside, and a light bullet was shot at him. He quickly retracted his head. Can we really go over? Now, there were only 15 minutes left before the 2 hours that the family head had said. Shi Feng didn't expect that he would encounter the side with the most troops today, and he even brought along a burden. If he was alone, he would have no problem rushing out, but this chef couldn't. He wasn't selected because he didn't have that ability. The best way was to abandon him and let him leave alone. However, as the executive officer of the Zhanlong guards, how could he abandon his subordinates and leave alone? Shi Feng slapped the chef's head. Pull yourself together. Have you forgotten the oath you made that day as a Zhanlong guard? The chef was stunned by the slap. He shook his head. I won't give up until the last moment. Yes, he would not give up until the very last moment. The look on the chef's face became more and more determined. Shi Feng was a little relieved. He told the chef about the plan to break out of the encirclement. In a while, I'll attract the firepower. You take the opportunity to run. The chef's eyes widened. What about you? I have my own way to get out of danger. You just have to protect yourself. Don't drag me down. The chef hesitated for a moment before answering firmly, yes. Shi Feng gestured to the chef, indicating his escape route. After making sure that the chef understood, he bent down and touched the other side, signaling the chef to get ready. The chef gripped his weapon tightly and nodded. Shi Feng immediately attacked, and the firepower gradually gathered on his side. The chef left from the other side, and before he left, he turned back to look. Countless flames surrounded Shi Feng, and the chef's heart jumped. The light in front of him dimmed, and Shi Feng's figure disappeared in front of him. The chef reached the assembly point in a sorry state. The Zhanlong guards went forward to support him. Where's the executive officer? The chef pointed behind him. The Zhanlong guards looked behind him, but it was empty. There was no one there. Where's the executive officer? Say something. The chef's eyes turned red. Executive officer. The Zhanlong guards tightened their grip on the chef's hand. Speak clearly. What happened to the executive officer? Shi Feng hasn't returned yet? Shi Shang stood in front of the limitless disembarkation cabin and asked calmly, what happened? The excited Zhanlong guards fell silent, and the chef told him what happened. Shi Shang looked into the distance, and after a moment, he turned back. We're not waiting anymore. Leave this place. Family head. Family head, executive officer. Shi Shang looked at them calmly. The Zhanlong guards, who were trying to buy time, didn't dare to speak anymore. They dragged the chef away, and the limitless started to move, slowly leaving the ground. The limitless rose, and the scenery below became smaller. The Zhanlong guards stood in front of the observation cabin, looking at the flashing lights below. Their executive officer might be there. At that moment, all the lights below disappeared. Not only the lights from the crossfire, but the lights also disappeared. It was as if the entire planet had lost power. Rumble, the limitless shook, and the Zhanlong guards weren't prepared for it. Some of them were thrown out, and the cabin was in chaos. When the limitless stabilized, the scenery outside had turned into outer space. Further away, a planet had exploded into a cloud of smoke, disappearing from their vision. The Zhanlong guards looked on in shock. Executive officer. Bang! A Zhanlong guard punched the wall of the cabin, his face full of grief. It's all my fault. If I didn't hand him over to the executive officer, he might have. Don't talk nonsense. The executive officer might be fine. Someone interrupted him. However, they all knew that this might be, it was just a might. The chef looked out of the cabin with a pale face. The executive officer had said that he had a plan, but, because Shi Feng hadn't returned, the entire Zhanlong guards were in low spirits. Shen Xing walked around them, and the clanking sounds annoyed them. Shen Xing, can you stop walking around? One of the Zhanlong guards couldn't take it anymore and shouted at Shen Xing. Shen Xing blinked innocently. What are you doing? What are we doing? Aren't you sad that the executive officer didn't come back? They were all angry, but they didn't dare to vent it on Shi Feng. At that moment, Shen Xing was in trouble. Shen Xing was usually the closest to Shi Feng. She hung around his legs all day. At that moment, Shi Feng might have. But she was acting like this, and that made the Zhanlong guards feel bad. Shen Xing was yelled at twice, and she pouted. She turned around and muttered, if he didn't come back, so be it. It's not like he won't come back. Why are you so angry? I'm not going to play with you. Wait. One of the Zhanlong guards pulled Shen Xing back. What are you doing? Let go of me. Shen Xing immediately struggled. The Zhanlong guards didn't let go. They forced her to face them. What did you just say? Let go of me. Shen Xing roared. The first sentence. Shen Xing saw that the Zhanlong guard's expressions weren't right. She thought for a moment, you don't think that Shi Feng is dead, do you? Chapter 1904. Wasn't that the case? They had seen the Red Moon Galaxy's capital star being blown to pieces with their own eyes. Shen Xing let go of her hand and pulled her skirt back a few steps. She sneered. How could Shi Feng die? Can't you see that Master isn't nervous at all? Master wouldn't let Shi Feng die. Shi Feng had been with Master for so long and Master had given him so many life-saving items. How could he die? This bunch of idiots. The Zhanlong guards were bitter. When had Master ever been nervous about others? Except for the young man who changed his face faster than the change of the weather, but only doted on himself. Anyway, Shi Feng is fine. He'll be back soon. Shen Xing kept a straight face. I'm not playing with you guys. It's not fun at all. Because of Shen Xing's words, the Zhanlong guards finally regained some energy. However, they still hadn't seen Shi Feng for a day. They were worried the whole day and only hoped that Shi Feng would come back soon. The moment Shen Xing appeared, she would be surrounded by the Zhanlong guards. They would ask her when Shi Feng would come back and where he was. Shen Xing was annoyed. In the end, she turned into a tablet and didn't go out. Shen Xing hated being turned into a tablet the most. However, she was willing to be turned into a tablet. This showed how annoyed those people were. The star web had completely collapsed. This time, it wasn't that they couldn't log in. It was just that it was pitch black. All the money in the star web had disappeared. Now, other than those with a lot of fixed assets, everyone in the galaxy was poor. #poorest galaxy #. At the same time, the intelligent robots under Zero's control stopped working. However, the brainwashed people couldn't. They were still carrying out Zero's orders, turning everyone in the galaxy into emotionless monsters. Without those troublesome AI robots, the number of humans fighting back increased. Everyone in the interstellar galaxy was fighting back. At this time, Limitless was at the edge of the alliance. It floated quietly in the galaxy as if it had merged with the galaxy. Feng Ci watched Shi Shang play with the Rubik's Cube. She had been playing with it recently. Every time she played with it, she would adjust the route. It was as if the Rubik's Cube could take her somewhere. Xiao Sheng. Feng Ci went over. Is it over? Shi Shang put down the Rubik's Cube and hugged him. Not so fast. There's still a good show to come. What's wrong? Are you annoyed? Yeah. He didn't want her to do that. He just wanted her to be with him. What's up with that Zero? It was rare for Feng Ci to ask her about these things. Shi Shang straightened her body and said, When I got Shen Xing, I met Zero. Logically speaking, Zero would never forget such an unforgettable scene. But it obviously doesn't remember. At that time she said, Long time no see, but Zero replied, so she didn't continue. It's fake? Feng Ci tilted his head. How could something like this be fake? No, it's Zero, Shi Shang said with a faint smile. Then why doesn't it remember? Because it was formatted by someone. Shen Xing's voice sounded, and her figure slowly appeared. She smiled fawningly at Shi Shang. Master, I think Zero's ability has weakened. Zero was the mastermind. Even if the collapse of the star web had caused it some difficulties, it shouldn't have been so weak. Shi Shang glanced at her. Shen Xing was not afraid, but when Feng Ci glanced at her, she immediately became terrified and ran outside. She was scared to death. Without Shi Feng, there was no one to bear Feng Ci's murderous gaze with her. Why didn't Zero remember her? The most obvious possibility was that it had been formatted, just as Shen Xing had said. But who could have formatted Zero? How interesting. Feng Ci didn't seem interested in Zero anymore. He stuffed the cube into Shi Shang's hands, got up, and left the room. If she didn't know that Feng Ci wouldn't mess with Shen Xing, she would have suspected that he went out to kill Shen Xing was a girl. If it was a boy, he would have been hunted down. Shi Shang kept changing the course. Finally, the Limitless stopped at a galaxy that had never been seen before. Shi Shang looked at the cube, took a deep breath, and went down alone. This was a very strange planet. It wasn't big, but it was filled with extremely rare energy sources, as well as some black crystals that grew in the energy sources. Shi Shang had seen this kind of crystal before. The Xia family would use this kind of crystal when forging weapons. But she didn't know what they were used for. They didn't contain any energy, and were no different from ordinary ornamental crystals. It seemed that only the Xia family could use them. The entire planet was filled with these black crystals, mixed with other colorful energy sources. When the light swept over, it seemed like the entire world was sparkling. Shi Shang walked along the path paved with black crystals. Black eaves came into view in the distance. She sped up, and a black palace made of black crystals appeared in front of her. Shi Shang looked up at the magnificent palace. The entire palace was made of crystals. It was completely black and majestic. Shi Shang felt like she had traveled through time and space. She didn't seem to be in the galaxy anymore. She took a deep breath and stepped onto the steps paved with black crystals. There were 9 steps in total, and each step was engraved with strange patterns. The cube in her hand rotated on its own as she stepped onto the different steps. When she finished the last step, a magnificent interstellar map suddenly flashed in front of her. A route was marked with a red line, but the map only appeared for 3 seconds. The magic seemed to be quickly twisted by someone. It disrupted itself and returned to silence. Shi Shang held the cube tightly and walked towards the main door of the palace. The door made of crystals was engraved with the Xia family emblem that Shi Shang had seen before. Shi Shang reached out to push the door. There was no special way to open it. With a gentle push, the door automatically moved to the sides. A cold air emanated from inside, mixed with a thick fog. Shi Shang stood motionless, allowing the fog to cover her legs. The scene behind the door gradually revealed itself. Countless transparent crystal coffins were placed in the fog, neatly extending into the distant darkness. The palace seemed to have no end. Is this the Xia family's soul tomb? Shi Shang looked at the endless crystal coffins and muttered softly. Soul tomb meant the place where the soul returned. The 6 great families all had a soul tomb. The people of the 6 great families didn't know why the soul tomb existed. It was like a ritual of their families. It had been passed down since ancient times, and their descendants had always followed the footsteps of their ancestors. Every family head and clansman who had made great contributions to the family could place their bodies in the soul tomb. The Shi family's ancestral hall was just a memorial tablet. The real soul tomb was in a place that no one other than the family head and elders could enter. The soul tomb not only contained the bones of the ancestors, but also countless secrets. Outsiders were not allowed to enter. Xia Chu, did you guide me here so that I can see your bones? Chapter 1905. Shi Shang stood outside for a while before finally going in. It was much colder inside than outside. He felt as if he was stepping on ice. It was chilling. Shi Shang glanced at the era carved on the first crystal coffin. It was from a long time ago, so the most recent coffin should be at the end. Shi Shang walked in the middle of the coffins, causing the fog to swirl around him. On both sides of the coffins were the ancestors of the Xia family. Their bodies were intact, but they looked like they were asleep. From the beginning to the end, it was as if he had walked through all the times the Xia family had gone through. Xia Lin. Shi Shang stopped in his tracks. The crystal coffin was translucent, so he could vaguely see the person inside. A man in military uniform was lying inside. He wore a mask on his face, so his face could not be seen. This was Xia Chu's brother, Xia Lin. When he died, his entire face was disfigured. This was probably why he was wearing a mask now. Shi Shang retracted his gaze and walked to the left. There was only one crystal coffin behind Xia Lin. Shi Shang's expression did not change at all. He stood calmly in front of the crystal coffin. There was someone in the crystal coffin, and Shi Shang was familiar with that person's attire. Shi Shang did not seem surprised by this result. A deep light surged in the depths of his eyes. After a while, he returned to calmness. Xia Chu. Shi Shang took a step forward and reached out to hold the crystal coffin. Ah Sheng. A wisp of green smoke floated out of the crystal coffin and gradually condensed into a human figure. Shi Shang's familiar face jumped into his eyes. He retracted his hand and stepped back, looking coldly at the person in front of him. Xia Chu landed lightly on the ground. She stared at Shi Shang and smiled. Ah Shang, you're here. Xia Chu looked sweet and gentle when she spoke. Her curved eyebrows seemed to be smiling all the time. It was hard to dislike her. Shi Shang was expressionless. Long time no see. Ah Shang, I haven't seen you for a long time. You still look like this. Xia Chu sighed. Then she said guiltily, I'm sorry, Ah Shang. I left you alone. Shi Shang's gaze finally focused on Xia Chu. Since Ji Zhang used the soul condensing array, how did you end up like this? It's your fate. Xia Chu's expression was gentle. She looked at the crystal coffin and slowly said, I have indeed been resurrected, but it was only for a short 10 days. Those 10 days were probably the 10 days where I would rather die than live. It is unforgettable. After that, my consciousness left my body and became what I am now. I had His Excellency Caesar send me here precisely to wait for you. Waiting for me? Xia Chu nodded. Waiting for you. Shi Shang and Xia Chu did not speak again, but the atmosphere was not awkward. Perhaps they had not seen each other for many years, but some things did not need to be said. After a long while, Xia Chu asked, Where's your sword? Shi Shang took out his iron sword and paused for a few seconds before handing it to her. Xia Chu shook her head. I can't take it. Just leave it there. The direction that Xia Chu pointed at was the end of this place, where there was a rectangular platform made of crystals. Shi Shang placed the iron sword on the platform, and Xia Chu floated over. Ah Shang, go out and wait for me. Shi Shang did not ask any more questions and turned to leave. As she passed by the crystal coffins, she seemed to see a lot of fog overflowing from the crystal coffins and drifting into the depths. Shi Shang sped up and left. She stepped out of the palace and the door closed silently. Time passed slowly. It seemed that there was no night in this place. It was always so bright that the crystals were sparkling. Shi Shang did not know how long he had been sitting outside. There was no sound in the hall at all. When he felt that he was about to turn into a stone statue, the door opened with a soft sound. A young girl walked out from the depths of the fog. Her figure was hazy, like a fairy in the fog. Shi Shang stood up and faced her. Xia Chu stopped at the door. Fog gushed out and filled the space between them. She smiled and waved her hand. The fog behind her surged rapidly, and a red light rushed out from the depths. The fog surrounded the red light and rushed out of the hall, causing Shi Shang's clothes to flutter. The red light soared into the sky. The fog dispersed, and a pitch-black long sword fell from the sky. The red light in the middle was even more enchanting. The sharp blade of the sword was inserted into the ground. An invisible wave of air spread out like a wave. Wherever it passed, the crystals instantly lost their luster. Shi Shang did not look back. His eyes were calm as he looked at the person inside. Xia Chu's lips parted slightly. Her soft voice fell into Shi Shang's ears. Ah Shang, I'm very lucky to have met you when I was young. This is my last gift to you. May it bless you for generations to come. May it awe the world and make you respected. Shi Shang finally looked back at the iron sword. This was its form when she first saw it. After she brought it back, it degenerated into an ordinary iron sword. However, Xia Chu said that this sword was too vicious and should be used with caution. She also knew that because when she got this sword, it was inserted into a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. However, she spent so much effort to bring it back. How could she give it up just like that? Moreover, The contract between them had been fulfilled. Xia Chu saw that she was determined, so she asked her to borrow it. Xia Chu did not see her for a whole month. She searched the entire Xia family but did not find her. When she saw Xia Chu again, she had lost a lot of weight. When the iron sword was returned to her, the vicious aura on the iron sword was significantly reduced. But now, she could feel the terrifying aura of hostility. However, it was different from before. Ah Shang, goodbye. The smile in Xia Chu's eyes seemed to be dyed with light, shining brightly. Xia Chu. Shi Shang's voice changed a little. She paused for a while before saying, "Is this your choice?" She only needed to say that she wanted to live. Even if she had no other way, she would think of a way to let her live. But Xia Chu was still smiling. Her smile was like a gentle spring breeze that blew through Shi Shang's heart. "Thank you for everything you've done for me. If there's a next life, don't meet me again." Shi Shang stared at Xia Chu without blinking. "Is this something you can decide? Do you think I won't meet you just because you said so?" Xia Chu's figure gradually became transparent. "Ah Shang, when you leave, destroy this place. I don't want someone to find this place and use the Xia family one day. This is the last thing I can do for the Xia family as the head of the family. This is my last request to you." Since the Xia family was gone, there was no need for the things preserved by the Xia family to exist. Although it was disgraceful to destroy the bones of the ancestors would agree with her. Everything in the Xia family could not fall into the hands of outsiders. "Okay." Shi Shang turned around resolutely. Xia Chu sighed. Ah Shang really did not change at all. In the end, just look at her a little longer. Shi Shang walked to the iron sword and reached out to grab the iron sword. She suddenly turned around, and the crystal under her feet that was still in its original state suddenly turned into ashes. "Xia Chu, do you regret it?" Xia Chu knew what Shi Shang was asking. She said, "I don't regret it. If I had to do it again, I would still make the same choice." Regardless of whether Ji Dai betrayed her in the end, she would still make the same choice. Because only in this way, only then would you be safe and sound. Shi Shang held the iron sword tightly. "Xia Chu, goodbye." Shi Shang turned around and did not look back. Xia Chu's smile froze on her face. "Goodbye, Ah Shang." Chapter 1906. Flowing Light Flower. The flowing light swept through countless flower feathers and crushed the entire planet. It was like an indescribable performance. The bright colors made people forget that it was being destroyed. Shi Shang stood on the infinity and watched the last bit of light disappear. "I wanted to use the infinity to bring her back," Shi Shang said softly. "Who knew this would happen?" Feng Ci held Shi Shang's hand silently. "You still have me." Shi Shang turned around. Before he could see Feng Ci's face, he pulled him into his arms. Shi Shang could hear his heartbeat. Shi Shang was stunned. He slowly reached out and hugged him. Yan family. Since the collapse of the star web, the Yan family had worked together with Ji Yi and Jin Shi to clean up the areas under their jurisdiction. Recently, Yan Lin had transformed from a teenager into a man. "Young master, Area A has been recovered." "How's Area C?" Yan Lin asked as he walked towards the port. "Area C is more troublesome. There are a few mutants there." Yan Lin frowned. Now that the machines controlled by Zero couldn't be used, there was no need to be afraid of the robots. However, these brainwashed mutants were difficult to deal with. "Send more people. We must take down Area C before tomorrow." Yan Lin looked at the sky. His pupils shrank. Alert! The busy people looked up at the sky. A black spaceship was descending. The speed of the spaceship was too fast. When Yan Lin shouted the alert, the spaceship had already landed. There was no buffer at all. It slid a long distance in the port. The things on the port were messed up. A few people were almost caught in the turbulence. How was this landing? It was as if the spaceship had crashed from the sky. However, nothing happened to the spaceship. Yen Lin saw the obvious logo on the spaceship and immediately knew who it belonged to. Only the people from that family would do things in such an eclectic way. Even the landing of a spaceship was so unique. What was the Shi family doing here at this time? Yen Lin quickly thought of something serious. He quickly brought people over. The spaceship opened and the Zhonlong guards came down. They didn't even need the lift. They jumped down directly. Their gorgeous cloaks swayed in the air. Yen Lin's mouth twitched. Was he here to show off? Yen Lin thought that Shi Shang would also come down like this. Unexpectedly, the spaceship lowered the ladder and Shi Shang slowly came down. When she was halfway down, she suddenly looked up and asked, "Where's your old man?" When Shi Shang suddenly spoke to him, Yen Lin was so shocked that his heart started to race. He tried to control his racing heart and asked, "Why is family head Shi looking for Grandpa?" Shi Shang continued to walk downstairs. "Of course. Why else would I come here to have tea with him?" "Yen Lin. I was afraid that you were here to pick a fight." Recently, they had been busy cleaning up the mess left behind by Zero. They had not offended her at all. If she came looking for them for no reason, something must have happened. "Hurry and inform Grandpa." Yen Lin instructed the people around him. Then, he stepped forward, exchanged some pleasantries, and brought Shi Shang to the Yen family. Yen Lin had only seen this woman, who was known as the Scourge of the Galaxy, from afar. Now that he was in close contact with her, Yen Lin was both curious and nervous. This was because Grandpa had always warned him not to provoke this woman. Yen Lin brought Shi Shang to the Yen family. Family head Yen was already waiting for them. "Family head Shi, how have you been?" "Very well." Shi Shang walked in without hesitation. Family head Yen waved his hand at his grandson, indicating for him to leave. Then, he followed Shi Shang in. "I guess this matter has something to do with family head Shi, right?" Other than this person in front of him, he could not think of anyone else who could make Zero break down in such a short time. "Do you have any other opinions?" Family head Yen. He was speaking politely, but she was speaking with sarcasm. Could they still have a proper conversation? He was going to die from anger. When did he say that he had any opinions? If family head Yen did not think that he was qualified to be her grandfather, he would definitely be angry with Shi Shang. As an elder, he could not lose his image. "How is Zero?" Family head Yen asked. She exploded together with the Imperial Star in the Red Moon Galaxy. What did she say? Exploded together with the Imperial Star in the Red Moon Galaxy? Exploded together? There was no internet now, so there was no news. This was Shi Shang's first-hand news. "Why is the mainframe in the Red Moon Galaxy? Didn't it?" Family head Yen paused. That's right, the mainframe of the mainframe must have been destroyed by her, so the mainframe had to be abandoned. Family head Yen looked over. "You blew up the Imperial Star in the Red Moon Galaxy?" Shi Shang shrugged. "It wasn't me, Zero did it. Zero was the one who planted the explosives, and it was also the one who detonated them. This had nothing to do with her, so she would not take the blame." Family head Yen took a while to digest this news. In the past, she would not go to the Red Moon Galaxy, but this time, she blew up the Imperial Star the moment she went there. Family head Yen took a few deep breaths, forcing himself not to have a heart attack. Family head Shi, Zero really blew up? Why? Do you want to collect its body? Shi Shang raised his eyebrows and looked at family head Yen. Family head Yen. Collect its body. Did Zero have a body to collect? Patriarch Yen almost lost his image and rolled his eyes, but he held himself back in the end. After all, he was a person of status, and he could not do such a thing. Family head Yen coughed and straightened his body. Family head Shi, have you thought about what we should do now that Zero is gone? Without the galactic web, it was not convenient for them to contact each other. The most important thing was, what should they do with the technology of the entire galaxy? Did they really have to go back a few hundred years? Family head Yen was worried at the thought of this. You're asking me? Shi Shang pointed at himself. Blow it up and start over. What do you think of this suggestion? Shi Shang paused for a while, then she suddenly realized. Family head Yen, are you blaming me? Should I tame Zero and give it to you with both hands? Only then will you think it's right? Damn it, he couldn't deal with Zero, but she did. Now he was asking her what to do now that Zero was gone. What to do? Go to hell. Family head Yen changed the topic. Family head Shi, why are you looking for me? She couldn't just be here to tell him that the imperial star of the Red Moon Galaxy had blown up. Shi Shang returned to normal. I have something to ask you. Two drama queens. Family head Yan's eyes lit up. He put on the airs of an elder. Family head Shi, what do you want to ask? What did you say to Xia Chu back then? Shi Shang paused and changed the way he asked. Or did you divine anything for the Xia family? No. Family head Yen denied without thinking. Really? If a child says that he can't understand this plane, then you can't understand it. Wait for a cherub to give you a strategy. I'm too lazy to write one anyway. Ha ha ha, I might be beaten to death again. My fearless little fairy. Hashtag begging for Han Xian's grass-flavored vote today. Hashtag little cuties, quickly vote for me. Chapter 1907. The head of the Yen family denied it seriously. He didn't predict anything for the Xia family. Why are you suddenly asking about this? The head of the Yen family was confused. It's the Xia family. Did something happen? Previously, because of the Xia family incident, everyone had been unhappy and she had always been estranged. But now she had suddenly come looking for him. Shi Shang stood up and smiled. It's none of your business. The head of the Yen family. What kind of attitude was that? He was so angry. Shi Shang left. Yen Lin watched as Shi Shang left. After a while, he entered the room. Grandpa, what did she come here for? The head of the Yen family rubbed his forehead tiredly. She came to ask about the Xia family. The Xia family. The Xia family. What the hell happened? What happened to the Xia family? Yen Lin was confused. Wasn't the Xia family destroyed? I don't know what happened to the Xia family either. She came to ask if I predicted anything for them. He didn't predict anything for the Xia family, so he was confident. Yen Lin didn't know what was going on, so he didn't know what to say. Shi Shang returned to the limitless. She didn't see anything wrong. It was as if she really went to the head of the Yen family to have tea with him. Master, what are you suspecting? Shunqing lay on the table and looked at Shi Shang with big watery eyes. Nothing. Maybe I'm overthinking. Shi Shang shook her head. It would be great if she was overthinking, but she didn't feel that way. Shi Shang suppressed the strange feeling and asked, when will Shi Fong come back? Oh, a few more days. Shunqing said. Then we'll wait for him here. The limitless stopped at the port. The head of the Yen family didn't know why Shi Shang stopped here. After watching her for a few days, he told the others to ignore her. The head of the Yen family spread the news about the Red Crescent Galaxy and Zero. Everyone couldn't help but respect Shi Shang even more. The Red Crescent Galaxy. It wasn't just any other galaxy. It was the strongest galaxy in the entire galaxy. Even the Alliance didn't dare to do anything to them. Now, their capital star had exploded. Scary. This pervert was too terrifying. Before Shi Fong returned, Shi Shang saw the people from the royal family at the port. They were here to invite the Yen family to attend a meeting in the capital to make arrangements for the upcoming work. Everyone was scattered and doing their own things, so the progress would be slower. Since Shi Shang was here, the royal family naturally gave her a copy of the book respectfully. When the head of the Yen family received the news, he prepared to leave. Now that the star system was in such a state, he wanted to recover as soon as possible. If not, when the Alliance recovered, they would be the unlucky ones. Sher Shang was sitting on the Infinity, eating sunflower seeds with his legs crossed as he watched Patriarch Yen board the spaceship next door. The head of the Yen family had already entered. No one knew what he was thinking, but he came out again. He got off the flying ship and walked to the bottom of the Limitless. Sher family head, you don't intend to go? Sher Shang munched on her melon seeds and said faintly, I'm not as fearless as Patriarch Yen. Patriarch Sher, what do you mean? Patriarch Yen frowned. Isn't Patriarch Yen good at divination? Why don't you calculate it? Patriarch Yan's frown deepened. Before he left, he had divined once, but the result was unknown. He had only seen this result twice in his life. The first time was when the Xia family was in trouble, and the second time was now. Sher family head, what do you know? What I know has nothing to do with you. Sher family head, you still can't let go of the past. The 6 families are one. Patriarch Yen was a little angry. As the head of the Sher family, this is your responsibility. Then take it that I'm not responsible. Sher Shang didn't care. Patriarch Yen, I'll tell you what the Yen family prophesied for the Xia family. Tell Grandpa, what do you know? Yen Lin's voice suddenly interrupted. He walked over quickly from afar. It seemed like Patriarch Yen didn't intend to bring him to the capital planet. Lin, Patriarch Yen was surprised. When did the Yen family prophesize for the Xia family? Yen Lin ignored Patriarch Yen and stared straight at the people on the Limitless. Sher Shang stood up and jumped down from the Limitless. Her gaze swept across Patriarch Yen and landed on Yen Lin. She pursed her lips. An equivalent exchange is fair. Tell me. You have to keep your word. Yen Lin met Sher Shang's gaze and was a little scared. It was calm, but he felt that there was a turbulent undercurrent in that calm. When have I not kept my word? Sher Shang retorted. Lin, don't spout nonsense. Patriarch Yen quickly pulled Yen Lin back. The consequences of lying to her were much worse than watching them die without saying anything. Grandpa, I saw Great-Grandpa last night. He told me something. What? Isn't Old Master? Patriarch Yen was slightly surprised. Old Master had been unconscious for the past 2 years. Even though they were in the interstellar era, he had to admit defeat when the time came. Great-Grandpa was conscious last night. Yen Lin said. Are you done with your discussion? Sher Shang was getting impatient. Yen Lin gave Patriarch Yen a reassuring look. Great-Grandpa once prophesied that the Xia family is destined to be destroyed. Sher Shang narrowed his eyes. What else? Patriarch Yan's prophecies were usually used as a warning. This prophecy would definitely come true, but there was still room for negotiation. Yen Lin took a deep breath. If we change this outcome, the Sher family will be destroyed. Sher Shang clenched his fists. The air seemed to have quieted down and everything was still. Sher Shang turned around and boarded the Limitless. Yen Lin was anxious. You haven't told me what you know. Sher Shang turned around and said expressionlessly, Patriarch Yen, come on up. Yen Lin glanced at his grandpa and was a little nervous. Why did he feel that his grandpa's gaze was murderous? Patriarch Yen patted Yen Lin's shoulder and boarded the Limitless. In an empty room, Sher Shang was lying on the ground. Beside him was a magic that had lost its effect and could no longer be used. In front of him was a magnificent interstellar map. The colorful light spots fell into his eyes. They were like tiny diamonds, shining brightly. Unfortunately, there was no sign of life. If she wasn't still breathing, people would probably think that she was already dead. Sher Shang closed his eyes. Xia Chu didn't let him kill Ji Dai because he used her. Although Ji Dai's intentions weren't pure, he still felt guilty and tried to save her life. Xia Chu couldn't be revived because he couldn't. You bet the entire Xia family just for a ridiculous prophecy. Was it worth it? Xia Chu, you're so stupid. Sher Shang seemed to see the disappearing hole. Xia Chu stood in the thick fog with a smile and waved at him. Xia Chu, Do you regret it? I don't regret it. If I had to do it again, I would still make the same choice. I bet the entire family's lives just for you to be healthy for the rest of your life. Chapter 1908. Director, Shi Shang already knows. Gina reported the latest news to Caesar. She was worried. Will she? Caesar looked up. Where is she now? She's still at the Yen family's port. But the traceback left the cerulean planet. We don't know the destination yet. It disappeared after it came out. The Zhanlong guards of the cerulean planet seem to be on the move too, but I can't find out the details. Caesar held his chin and thought. Are you sure the Yen family has cleaned it up and no one will find out? Old Master Yen is delirious. Yen Lin is not mature enough. It was at night. There shouldn't be any accidents. At least no one will find out in a short time. Gina said, but Director, why do you have to tell her about this? She can't just stand by and watch. Caesar said, we can only win if we force her to do something. But I'm worried. Gina was nervous. I'm worried that she will find out sooner or later that Xia Chu. Gina, if you don't tell anyone, no one will know about this, right? Caesar said calmly, besides, I don't plan to live. When this is over, I will pay with my life. Caesar lowered his head and held his forehead. I will pay back what I owe Xia Chu, the Xia family, and Shi Sheng. President. Gina's eyes were red. She couldn't hold back her tears anymore. Why do you have to do this? Caesar stood up and hugged Gina. Don't cry. This is our mission, isn't it? From the moment you entered this place, the ending was already decided. Gina, go and see Ji Wei. Maybe we won't be able to come back. Gina came out of the room crying and bumped into Mu Bai. Mu Bai held Gina like a gentleman. Miss Gina, don't you watch where you are going? Gina got rid of Mu Bai and ran away without saying anything. Mu Bai was a little confused. Every time Gina saw him, she would say something sarcastic. Why did she run away today? Could it be that she was mesmerized by his elegant demeanor? Mu Bai shook his bangs. He had become more handsome recently. He was narcissistic for a while and knocked on the door. Mr. Mu, what's the matter? Mu Bai first bowed slightly in a gentlemanly manner. Seeing him like this, Caesar put down the things in his hands and looked up at him. Mu Bai smiled. I've been nagging Chief Caesar recently, and I'm really embarrassed about it. That's why I plan to take my leave. Thank you for your hospitality. You're leaving. At this time, he was leaving. Caesar's mind was filled with all kinds of reasons. Yes. Mu Bai blinked his eyes at Caesar, the smile on his face never changing. I believe Chief Caesar has something very important to do, so I won't disturb Chief Caesar. After all, I am afraid of death. Caesar didn't reply immediately. Of all the times Mu Bai had to leave, he had to leave now. How could he not think about it? Could it be that Chief Caesar is reluctant to part with me? Who would miss a lunatic like you? Please go ahead, Mr. Mu. Mu Bai bent down again and placed one hand on his chest. Sincere anticipation was written all over his face. I hope we'll have a chance to drink together again. Mu Bai stood up straight and turned to walk towards the door. He held onto the doorknob and turned around to wink at Caesar. Coffee is fine too. Caesar. Mu Bai left under Caesar's disdainful gaze. He closed the door and the elegant smile on his face deepened. The curtains were about to fall. Mu Bai's departure made Ji Na very surprised. Chief, you're letting him go just like that? Yes. Caesar's blonde hair was messy at this time, and he was in a bad mood. But that man was full of secrets and was more likely to be someone from that side. Letting him go just like that was like letting a tiger return to the mountain. Caesar didn't let Ji Na continue. Go and contact Family Head Yen, Family Head Ji, and Family Head Jean. Ji Na's chest rose and fell rapidly a few times, and she left in her high heels. Capital planet. The last 12 summit seemed to be right in front of them. Who would have thought that so many things would happen in such a short time? The 6 great families gathered. This time, no one made any sarcastic remarks. They each took their own seats and remained silent. Even Mu-yi looked like she was deep in thought. The Zong family, as usual, was preparing to make a decision based on the situation. Only 2 executive officers of the administrative planet were present, and the rest were absent. Something must have happened. There were also some people from other forces, but compared to the 12 summit, the number was reduced by half. The large conference room was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Although no one talked, they exchanged glances or looked at each other from time to time. Everyone, I'm sorry. Shangguan Pu hurried in from outside, sweating. I'm sorry to keep you waiting. Third Prince, where's His Majesty? They waited for so long, but only the third prince came. Father is not feeling well and overworked, so he fell ill. So he can't come for the time being. Please forgive him, Shangguan Pu said apologetically. What could these people say when Shangguan Pu said so? His Majesty, the mascot, was not sick. He didn't want to come at all. Especially, everyone glanced at the person who occupied several seats. This person was still here. If possible, they didn't want to come. Why are you looking at me? It's not like I didn't ask His Majesty to come. Shi Shang stared back at them impolitely. Shangguan Pu's mouth twitched. Who sent the invitation? The imperial family didn't intend to invite her at all, okay? Then what do we do now? Someone asked. Shangguan Pu quickly came back to his senses. It's like this. I will preside over this meeting. Everyone hopes that the Nether Galaxy will get better, so I hope that everyone can put aside their differences for now and think about the future of the Nether Galaxy. Third Prince, it's not that we don't believe you, but the current situation. The person who spoke showed an expression that said they all understood. If His Majesty doesn't appear, we won't be confident. Don't worry. I will report the contents of the meeting to Father, Shangguan Pu said. But some people were still unhappy and insisted on seeing His Majesty. Jinxi's bad temper flared up. He slammed the table and stood up. You're so annoying. Third Prince already said that His Majesty is sick. Can't he rest well? What are you thinking? We're thinking about the entire galaxy. The other party was not to be outdone. If you're thinking about the galaxy, you should think of a solution. Don't argue about such useless things now. Jinxi's voice was so loud that the people opposite him couldn't speak. Shangguan Pu quickly tried to smooth things over. Everyone, stop arguing. Everyone has the same goal. There's no need to hurt the harmony. Today, that person didn't say anything, but these people started arguing first. Shangguan Pu glanced at Shi Shang. His heart couldn't help but twitch. He couldn't bear to look at them directly and looked away. This job was really not easy. Chapter 1909. The opening ended with a quarrel. It was exactly like the 12 summits. These people were not convinced at all. Shangguan Pu walked out of the venue tiredly. He asked the person beside him in a low voice, "How is Father's health?" "His Majesty has been in good spirits these 2 days. If this continues, His Majesty should recover soon," the subordinate replied. "What about Big Brother?" "He went to His Majesty's place a few days ago and caused a scene. His Majesty was so angry that he almost fainted. I don't know what he's been doing recently. He and the people around him have been so mysterious." "Your Highness, should we be careful?" Shangguan Pu rubbed his forehead. "Just keep an eye on him." "Your Highness, now that His Majesty..." The subordinate hesitated. "You should think about yourself. His Majesty has not appointed a crown prince yet. The eldest prince has always been eyeing that position. He has always been at odds with you. If you'll be in danger." Shangguan Pu shook his head. "Everything depends on Father's arrangements." "Your Highness." A crisp voice sounded from behind. Shangguan Pu's body trembled. He gave the person beside him a look. He turned around with a polite smile on his face. "Family head Shi, is there anything I can help you with?" Shi Shang walked over slowly. "Your Highness, do you have anything to say to me about the incident at Frost Moon Street?" Shangguan Pu was stunned. What time was it that she was only asking about it now? Wasn't this a classic case of looking for trouble? He knew that she was up to no good. "Family head Shi, we already sent you a brief report when we found out. Didn't you see it?" Shi Shang smiled. "The efficiency of the royal family is too low. It's been so long, but you didn't even give a specific conclusion." Family head Shi. Before Shangguan Pu could finish his sentence, Shi Shang had already turned around and left. Shangguan Pu. "Your Highness, what is she doing here?" Shangguan Pu. "Mocking the royal family's efficiency?" The accommodation arranged by the royal family was still the same hotel. When Shi Shang entered the lobby, he saw Ji Yi and Ji Xian standing together. The two seemed to be planning to go out, but Ji Xian looked a little unhappy. Ji Yi was coaxing her. Even at this time, he still brought Ji Xian with him. It seemed like it was true love. Ji Xian saw Shi Shang and hid behind Ji Yi. She grabbed Ji Ye's clothes and peeked at Shi Shang with only one eye. When Ji Yi looked over, a figure blocked his way. Xiao Sheng. The young man was wearing a thin sweater with loose pants and a pair of sneakers, which made him look even more like a young man. "Why did you come down?" Shen Xing hopped over from behind. Brother Feng said he was looking for master. When it was time to curry favor, she should do so. Just like today, when she told Feng Ci that her master was already downstairs, he immediately gave her a good look. Shi Shang tapped the tip of her nose. "You're not allowed to bring him out. Who's going to take responsibility if anything happens to him?" Shunxing pouted. Why did he get into Feng Ci's good books only to be scolded by his master? So aggrieved. "All right, let's go up." Shi Shang had no intention of blaming Shen Xing. The Zhanlong guards she had brought were all used to protect Feng Ci. They still had her things on them, so there wouldn't be any problems. Shi Shang took Feng Ci upstairs. Ji Yi and Ji Xian were still standing in the hall. When they reached the second floor, Patriarch Yan led his people into the elevator. Patriarch Yan's face was tense. He glanced at Shi Shang and then looked away. If strangers were here, they would think that they didn't know each other. Shi Shang didn't look at him. "If you don't greet me, I won't greet you either." Ding! The elevator door opened. Patriarch Yan stood still, and the people behind him didn't dare to move either. No one came out for a long time. When the elevator door was about to close, Patriarch Yan reached out to stop it. When the elevator opened again, he walked out with his hands behind his back. "Crazy," Shan Xing muttered in a low voice. The corridor outside was quiet. It was hard for Patriarch Yan not to hear it, but he didn't look back. He just sped up and left. The royal family's mascot His Majesty had been saying that he didn't want to see anyone. At first, they thought that His Majesty was faking it. But later, someone used the excuse of visiting His Majesty and saw that His Majesty didn't seem to be faking it. His Majesty might really not be able to make it. If something happened to His Majesty at this time, they would be faced with an even more difficult problem. Who should sit on the throne? The eldest prince was the eldest son. Logically speaking, he should be the one to inherit the throne. But everyone knew that the eldest prince was too arrogant and wasn't suitable to be the emperor. And the third prince? All these years, the third prince had been working for His Majesty. His Majesty seemed to have the intention of training him, but until now, the crown prince hadn't been decided. As for the second prince, no one had seen him for many years. He was obsessed with mecha all day long. Even when such a big thing happened in the galaxy, he didn't stand up. No one knew what His Majesty meant. Now, everyone was very busy. They just wanted to come to a conclusion as soon as possible. How to restore the underworld galaxy in the shortest time possible. But with so many twists and turns, it didn't seem that easy. Just as everyone was guessing, they suddenly received news that His Majesty was inviting everyone to a banquet. At the banquet, His Majesty would announce the next crown prince. Shi Shang walked back and forth with the invitation. Feng Xi's gaze followed her. Xiao Sheng, what are you thinking about? Shi Shang paused and waved the invitation in her hand. I'm wondering if His Majesty is really sick or faking it. Is it important? What did it have to do with her whether he was sick or not? It's not important. Shi Shang threw down the invitation. She crossed her arms and propped her chin up with the other. I'm just curious. Then why are you thinking so much? I'm bored. I'm just thinking about it. Bored. A dark light flashed across Feng Xi's eyes. He got up and leaned close to Shi Shang. I can relieve Xiao Shang's boredom. Xiao Shang, why don't you think about me? Shi Shang was unmoved by Feng Xi's approach. She said seriously, I've spent enough time thinking about you. She was a woman with strong willpower. She couldn't lose to beauty. But it misses you a lot. Who? It. Feng Xi guided Shi Shang's hand down. His face flushed slightly. Xiao Shang, touch it. It misses you a lot. Feng Xi was only wearing a bathrobe. He had gone to take a shower just now. It was obvious that he had planned this. He guided Shi Shang's hand inside and let Shi Shang hold a certain hot spot. Shi Shang, where did my innocent and cute Feng Xi go? Where did this old chauffeur come from? He must have been swapped. Shi Shang retracted his hand and wrapped Feng Xi's bathrobe properly. She squeezed out a smile. Don't tease me for no reason. I'll make it so that you can't get out of bed. That's because I let you have your way. Feng Xi muttered softly. What did you say? Shi Shang heard him. I said that I let you have your way. Feng Xi raised his voice. Let me have my way? Very well. Shi Shang's expression turned ferocious. He dragged Feng Xi to the bed and threw him on it. Let's see if you let me have my way today. Feng Xi's entire body sank into the soft bed. He shrank back, and the bathrobe slid down, revealing half of his shoulder. Coupled with his slightly nervous expression, he was simply a peerless beauty. Peerless beauty. No matter what, he still belonged to I. She couldn't lose to beauty, but she could lose to Feng Xi. I'll be locked in a small black room during the writing process, so I won't write. You guys can fill in the blanks yourselves. Chapter 1910. While Shi Shang was talking to Feng Xi, Mu Bai strolled into the hotel leisurely. He was dressed extraordinarily and had the temperament of an elegant gentleman. The waiter in the hall immediately came forward. Sir, is there anything I can help you with? Now that the galactic web could not be used, their hotel was actually closed. However, the royal family had ordered them to open the hotel, so now the hotel was only occupied by people who came to attend the meeting. Mu Bai was a new face, so they naturally had to stop him. Mu Bai smiled and said in a gentle voice, I'm looking for the head of the Shi family. The waiter looked at him up and down. May I know who you are? Mu Bai. Mu. Was he from the Mu family? But why hadn't he seen him before? And he was looking for that person. Mr. Mu, please wait for a moment. We'll go up and pass the message, but we don't know if the head of the Shi family is willing to see you. Please wait in the lounge. The waiter pointed to the lounge. Okay. The waiter probably did not expect Mu Bai to be so easy to talk to, and his attitude was so good. He could not help but like him a little more and asked someone to pass the message. Recently, there were many people who wanted to see Shi Shang, but they were all rejected. He thought he would be rejected this time too, but who knew that the little girl who occasionally followed him would come down and ask where he was. The waiter brought Shen Xing to the lounge. The lounge was surrounded by a few people, and the sound of quarreling could be heard. Through the crowd, he could vaguely see the gentleman from before sitting elegantly on the sofa, and a man standing opposite him. It was none other than the head of the Mu family, Mu Yi. Mu Bai, why did you come back? Who told you to come back? Mu Yi looked at Mu Bai as if he was an enemy. Shi Shang had told him a long time ago that Mu Bai was back. He had investigated for a long time but could not find any trace of Mu Bai. He thought that Shi Shang was lying to him. Who knew that he would see Mu Bai here today? After so many years, although his face had changed a little, he still recognized him. Looking at Mu Bai, he was in a relaxed state with an elegant smile on his face, which was a sharp contrast to Mu Yi. And the people around him were pointing at him. There were some old people here who knew that there was once a young master of the Mu family who was stripped of his name and exiled to a desolate star. Who would have thought that the elegant gentleman in front of them was that young master? Mu Bai didn't care about the eyes around him, he still smiled and said, "Mu Jia's lord, I have nothing to do with your Mu Jia. Whether I come back or not, I don't need to report to you. You've already been exiled. Who allowed you to return?" Mu Yi gritted her teeth. The hatred in her eyes seemed to burn through Mu Bai. Does the current Imperial Capital Star still need anyone's permission? Mu Bai's smile deepened. Without the Galactic Network, the ban on Mu Bai entering the Galactic Network would be useless. The Galactic Network was at its most chaotic. They should be glad that the Shi Shang had destroyed the Galactic Pirates' lair. Otherwise, before they could recover, they would be defeated by the interstellar pirates. Shen Xing squeezed in and said in a crisp voice, "Mu Bai? Master asked you to come up." Mu Bai didn't know Shen Xing, but he could guess. He got up and patted his clothes that didn't have any wrinkles at all. He adjusted his collar and nodded to Shen Xing, "Please lead the way." As a gentleman, he had to maintain his grace and elegance at all times. Shen Xing pouted and led the way in front. Some people hadn't seen this little girl before, but some had seen her appear beside the Shi Shang. The tinkling metal pendants on her body left a deep impression on them. Speaking of which, why didn't I see Shi Fong this time? I knew something was wrong. Shi Fong didn't come. Didn't the Shi Shang bring the Zhanlong guards? Why didn't she bring Shi Fong? Most people in the Galactic Network knew that the Shi Shang either didn't bring anyone with her, or as long as she brought someone, Shi Fong, the executive officer of the Zhanlong guards, would definitely follow. But this time, they didn't see Shi Fong. Could it be that something happened in the Red Moon Galaxy? It can't be. That's hard to say. Aren't the Zhanlong guards people? Back then, she only needed to make Zero submit, but she blew her up. Look at our lives now. No one had brought up this topic before, but now that someone brought it up, the people who had been suppressing their anger began to complain. The general idea was that the Shi Shang shouldn't have blown Zero up. Anyway, it was her fault now. Because Zero was gone, these people couldn't find anyone to blame. They could only vent their anger on the Shi Shang. If the Shi Shang was here, he would definitely give them a deluxe set of big swords. Mu Yi didn't care about what happened just now. The anger in his heart soared, and he left the hotel in a huff. Mu Bai followed Shen Xing into the elevator. Shen Xing's little head turned back and forth, and her eyes occasionally fell on Mu Bai. Because it was a direct elevator, it took a short time to go up. When they exited the elevator, Mu Bai smiled at Shen Xing and made way for her like a gentleman. "Cute girl, please go first." Shen Xing returned Mu Bai's soft smile, but her words were not polite. "It's no use trying to please me. Master said that in a while, I will beat you up until your mother can't recognize you." They hadn't even met yet, and she was already threatening to beat him up. "Calm down, don't be angry. Mu Bai, you are a gentleman. Smile, keep smiling. Maybe she won't bear to kill me later? Are you dreaming?" Shen Xing glared at Mu Bai. "Mu Bai, can't I dream for a while?" The corridor was very long. Shen Xing led the way in front. Occasionally, they would see the Zhanlong guards standing guard. Mu Bai kept smiling and asked Shen Xing curiously, "Who are you? Are you smart? What does my identity have to do with you? You talk so much. Save it for master later." Shen Xing was unhappy. Shi Fong wasn't here. She had to do these things now. She missed Shi Fong so much. Mu Bai. Everything that Shi Shang brought out was so annoying. Fortunately, they arrived at the room quickly. The Zhanlong guards standing at the door opened the door. Shen Xing had no intention of going in. Mu Bai stood at the door and watched. The room was very big. He could only see the carpet and some decorations from here. Are you going in or not? Shen Xing kicked him with her little foot and said angrily, I still want to play games. Don't waste my time. Shen Xing didn't have much strength. Her kicks were just like scratching an itch. But being treated like this by a little girl, the veins on Mu Bai's forehead bulged. If it wasn't for the fact that he didn't want to lower himself to a girl's level, you would have been beaten up long ago. This gentleman doesn't want to lower himself to a child's level. This gentleman doesn't want to lower himself to a child's level. Mu Bai repeated this in his heart a few times. He entered the room and the door behind him slammed shut. Mu Bai suddenly thought of the female lead making an indescribable deal with the CEO for money. She was forced to enter the CEO's room. What was going to happen? Mu Bai. What was he thinking? Asterisk the Mu Bai you want ha 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 ha, happy or not, has a lot of scenes. Chapter 1911. The female lead, Mu Bai, entered the room and was met with a violent beating. Everything happened as fast as a tornado, so fast that he didn't even have time to react. As expected, he was overthinking. How was this written by a CEO? This was clearly written by a mafia. And he was the one being trampled on. After being beaten up, Mu Bai was tied up. The Zhanlong guards forcefully pressed him onto the sofa and stood on his left and right. It was a proper gangster style, wasn't it? His body hurt. What if he couldn't maintain his smile? But he couldn't beat them, so he had to maintain his smile. Mu Bai twisted his body. The thing that tied him up was too tight, and it felt even tighter when he moved. Mu Bai could only give up on struggling. He looked at the big boss opposite him and smiled. Shi Shang, is this how you treat your guests? The big boss shook his legs and smiled evilly. If he had a cigarette and a beauty beside him, he could star in Interstellar 3. The big boss said clearly, of course not. Then what's the meaning of this? Mu Bai shrugged his arms. He was already tied up. What was this? I came uninvited, so I'm not a guest. Anyone who comes is a guest, Mu Bai replied smoothly. Shi Shang looked at him for a few seconds and suddenly said, Are you human? Shi Shang, that's a personal attack. Mu Bai couldn't take it. Shi Shang imitated his fake smile from before. I'm asking you, aren't I? Are you admitting to it? Mu Bai. A gentleman doesn't lower himself to a woman's level. Calm down. He had to calm down. Mu Bai adjusted his emotions. I have something to say to you. Did I block your mouth? Mu Bai wanted to hit him. To you alone. Mu Bai gritted his teeth and emphasized. To hell with being a gentleman. How could he be a gentleman in front of this pervert? He was so angry that he wanted to cry. Just don't treat them as humans. Mu Bai. Did you think about their feelings when you said that? Mu Bai turned his head and looked at the Zhanlong guards who didn't move at all. All right. They probably wouldn't react even if Shi Shang called them pigs. So what could he do? He was so desperate that he wanted to commit suicide. Let me go first. Mu Bai retracted his gaze and twisted his arm. What do you want me to say? Shi Shang crossed his arms and glanced at Mu Bai. Do you want me to prepare a cup of coffee and get someone to serve you? If you're willing, I don't have any objections. Mu Bai smiled. Disgusting you to death. Shi Shang snorted with a half-smile. Sure. She raised her head and looked at the Zhanlong Wei. The Zhanlong Wei immediately understood and turned to leave the room. Mu Bai. He had a bad feeling about this. After Mu Bai finished a cup of coffee with an indescribable taste and was served by someone until his body was covered in wounds, he finally gave up. He was no match for the woman in front of him. What was he doing here if he wasn't strong enough and he wasn't smart enough? Mu Bai was currently in a state of confusion. Who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? You win. Mu Bai lay limp on the sofa. After a while, he gritted his teeth and said, "The thing I gave you last time, I'll give you information in exchange." Shisheng asked, "What did you give me last time?" "That jade pendant." Jade pendant? Shisheng thought for a while and suddenly realized. "You mean the jade pendant you gave me in the death dimension?" Mu Bai nodded. "That was it. I threw it away." Mu Bai. "Say that again if you dare." As it turned out, Shisheng really did throw it away. Mu Bai questioned why Shisheng threw it away. Didn't he already tell her very clearly to keep it for him and to think of a way to bring it out when she left? That thing was very important. He thought that since he said so, even if she wanted to use it against him, she would definitely bring it out. But she actually threw it away. Threw it away. Threw it away. I didn't see it. Shisheng spread his hands innocently. I only saw the words, "The message has expired." Mu Bai. When the hell did you see it? He spent so much effort to give it to her, but she didn't even look at it. Not only did she not look at it, she even threw it away. He wanted to hack her to death. He couldn't keep his cool at all. Are you blaming me? You were the one who said it to require spiritual power to see it. Unfortunately, those planes don't have spiritual power. So this was all fate. He really couldn't blame her. Mu Bai's expression was ugly. At this moment, he no longer had the image of a gentleman. He lay on the sofa helplessly. "Let me be alone." "What's in it?" Shisheng crossed his legs. "Your amulet?" Mu Bai had been free and unfettered outside previously, looking as if he had a strong backing. It was obvious that he had something to use as an amulet. Although he was avoiding Zero's investigation, he wasn't afraid. After she went in, something must have happened, so he had no choice but to give it to her. Unexpectedly, she didn't see the message, so she threw it away. Mu Bai sat up from the sofa and suddenly looked serious. "Do you know who is the mastermind behind all this?" He suddenly became serious. Shisheng also restrained some of his playfulness. "I know." Mu Bai didn't seem surprised. "With your ability, it's not difficult to find out. Then do you know how he controlled Zero?" Shisheng changed his posture and placed his hand on the sofa's armrest. The original intention of building the galactic web was to serve humanity. Zero's appearance was also to serve humanity better. Any anti-human behavior is not allowed to appear in Zero's system. The team that built the galactic web, from the time they joined the team to the final trial and launch of the galactic web, took almost their entire lives. They spent so much time building the galactic web, but it wasn't for it to capture all of humanity one day. So in order to prevent such a thing from happening, they set up a special code. Once something happened to Zero, it could be controlled. Then there was another problem. What if someone obtained the special code and used Zero to do something? So the code that could control Zero was divided into 3 parts, which were kept by the 3 leaders of the research team. Those who knew about this had to write a confidentiality agreement, promising that they wouldn't say anything even if they died. After the 3 leaders died, they would hand it over to their descendants for safekeeping. It would only be passed down to the next leader. This was their family's secret. Unless the galactic web was facing a catastrophe, this secret was not allowed to be leaked. With the passage of time, the families of the 3 leaders had long declined. Their names only appeared in textbooks. No one knew that somewhere in the galactic web, there was a code that could control Zero. Mu Bai was surprised that Shisheng knew so much. He had investigated this matter for a long time before he found out. It was really infuriating to compare oneself to others. Mu Bai, who couldn't live past 1 episode, finally lived 1 more episode. Ha ha ha. #today, I'm begging for Lupin-flavored tickets. #please use QQ to read Cherub's fan list. The top 100 who haven't joined the group, please join the group now. 5534133796. This is QQ reading. Don't join other apps. Chapter 1912. One needed the complete code to control Zero. However, Zero's performance proved that the person had only gotten a part of it. Although Zero had been reformatted and given a new command, Zero's IQ was not high. Shishang's red lips curled up. So your trump card is this code? If he had this code, it could indeed be his trump card. However, now that Zero was gone, Mu Bai was still worried about it. What use did it have? Now you know how important it is, right? It's all because of you. Now it's all gone. He was so angry that he couldn't control himself. It's important to you, but not to me. Shishang shrugged. Mu Bai almost went berserk. He wanted to kill the person in front of him. Are you done? Mu Bai was alarmed. What are you doing? What are you trying to do? Shishang took out his iron sword. When the iron sword appeared, Mu Bai's expression changed. This sword, why did it change again? It was even more frightening. Just one look was enough to send chills down his spine. Run. That was the only word in Mu Bai's mind. The ropes binding him were cut silently. He jumped up from the sofa and ran straight for the French window. He used his body to smash through the French window. The glass shattered with a crash, and his whole body fell straight down. Shishang, you pervert. His voice came faintly from below. Shishang, Mu Bai was an idiot. He only knew how to kill himself. Shishang ordered his men to capture Mu Bai. However, the Zhonlong guards went down to search but did not find him. Damn it, he escaped again. Mu Bai ran for a distance and looked back. There was no one in the alley. He heaved a sigh of relief when he confirmed that no one was chasing him. It was really scary. Mu Bai calmed himself down and got up to leave. However, when he looked up, he saw a few people standing in front of him. He quickly turned around. However, a few people appeared behind him and blocked his way. This group of people was wearing suits and sunglasses. They were all burly and looked like they could fight. Mr. Mu, the master wants to see you. The other party's tone was not pleasant. Mu Bai cursed in his heart. He was really unlucky today. He calmly raised his head and walked towards the people in front of him. Lead the way. The banquet was held in the imperial palace. Due to the current situation, the banquet was not very grand. The people who attended all had solemn expressions, as if they were not attending a banquet, but a funeral. Shangguan Pu was receiving these people at the entrance. The smile on his face was almost frozen. Unfortunately, not many people were willing to give him a good look. The current royal family. He was really a mascot. Your Highness, you should go and rest for a while. I'll stay here and watch. The subordinate was worried about Shangguan Pu and told him to go and rest. Shangguan Pu shook his head. Those who come later are the most important. The people from the 6 great clans and the administrative planets had yet to arrive. Your Highness, Patriarch Yen, Patriarch Jin, and Patriarch Ji have arrived. A person hurriedly ran over. Shangguan Pu's expression changed slightly, and he immediately went out to greet them personally. The 3 patriarchs came together, and one could see their camp at this time. They didn't bring many people, only 2 personal bodyguards. 3 patriarchs, welcome, welcome. Please come in. Shangguan Pu quickly invited them in. 3rd Prince, thank you for your hard work. Yen family head expressed his gratitude to Shangguan Pu on behalf of them. His attitude was proper and polite. It's my duty. Shangguan Pu modestly said, please come in. Just as the 3 patriarchs were sent in, Mu Yi and the Zong family also arrived. Where's the Shi family? After greeting these people, Shangguan Pu didn't see Shishang and couldn't help but ask. They arrived a long time ago. What? Shangguan Pu's face was full of surprise. When did they arrive? Why didn't he see them? Just when you went to greet Mu Jia's patriarch, Shishang brought a teenager in. The subordinate answered carefully. Because she appeared suddenly and Shangguan Pu wasn't there, Shishang went straight in without any intention of stopping. He didn't dare to stop him. When Shangguan-pu came back, he didn't have time to report. Someone else came, so Shangguan-pu poked his subordinate's forehead with his fingertips. "What do you want me to say to you?" Shangguan-pu hurried into the venue. In fact, there were quite a lot of people in the venue. It was not easy to find one person among so many people. Shangguan-pu looked around the venue and didn't see anyone. He was a little upset. "Your Highness, I wonder if His Majesty's health is better?" Someone came forward to talk. Shangguan-pu whispered to his subordinate, "Hurry up and inform me when you see her." "Yes, Your Highness." He looked up at the person who asked the question. "Father's health is much better. He can get out of bed and walk around in the past 2 days. Father will come out to meet everyone in a while. Then I'm relieved." Even if Shangguan-pu didn't want to socialize, he had to accompany these people and chat. Shi Sheng stood in the corner with Feng Ci. There was not enough light here. Although they could see people, they couldn't see their faces. Feng Ci leaned against the back wall with his hands in his trouser pockets. He tilted his head and looked at the center of the banquet. He didn't know what Shi Sheng was doing here, but since she didn't want him to intervene, he could only watch. "Baby." Feng Ci suddenly had goosebumps on the back of his hand. "Xiao Sheng, let's talk." Feng Ci immediately recalled what happened today. He didn't seem to have offended her today. Shi Sheng rolled his eyes. Fortunately, there wasn't enough light to block her indecent behavior. Shi Sheng took a step back and reached out to Feng Ci. "May I have the honor of inviting you to a dance?" Feng Ci blinked. What did he do wrong? "Xiao Sheng, I don't know how to dance." He had never danced like this before. Although he had memories of it, it was still a little unfamiliar. Feng Ci was a little unwilling. Shi Sheng pulled Feng Ci to the dance floor without any explanation. "You still have me. What are you afraid of?" When they reached the center of the dance floor, Shi Sheng didn't have to teach Feng Ci specifically. Feng Ci could use it skillfully after a few moves. After all, he used to be a CEO. If he didn't have this ability, it would have been a waste. "You danced well." Shi Sheng winked at Feng Ci. "It's all thanks to Xiao Sheng's good teaching." Feng Ci's voice was a little hoarse. Perhaps it was because the light was too dim, but Shi Sheng felt that Feng Ci was a little gloomy just now. She squeezed Feng Ci's hand tightly. Feng Ci glanced sideways. His eyes were pure, without any darkness. Feng Ci pursed his lips and smiled lightly. When the light moved away, he lowered his head and kissed Shi Sheng's lips. He gently nibbled on them and released her before the light swept over. Shi Sheng suppressed the strange feeling just now. Feng Ci heaved a sigh of relief. As expected, he couldn't reveal any of his thoughts in front of her. For some reason, the light chaser above suddenly focused the light on Feng Ci. The young man was surrounded by a dazzling light. Asterisk, this is a fake group. Little Fairy, is it because I haven't been writing small dramas recently that you guys didn't vote for me? Cherub, I did. Little Fairy, you guys might have voted for me. Vote again. Cherub. Chapter 1913. Being stared at, Feng Ci's brows furrowed slightly. He pulled Shi Sheng away from the dance floor. Before anyone could react, the angelic youth from before had already disappeared. Shi Sheng didn't like his people being stared at, so he let Feng Ci pull him away. Shi Sheng took Feng Ci to find a place to sit down. As soon as they sat down, Patriarch Yen staggered over. "Patriarch Shi, can I have some of your time?" Patriarch Yen was already very polite. With his status, he didn't need to ask for someone's opinion. "No." Shi Sheng refused without hesitation. "My time is precious." Patriarch Yen. Precious? Precious? What the hell? How is it precious for you to be sitting here? Patriarch Yen glanced at the young man beside her. The young man looked down, as if he wasn't interested in their conversation. He also looked weak, but Patriarch Yen was speechless. These two perverts. He wanted to ask about what happened today, but he thought that since she was here, there shouldn't be any accidents. After all, she didn't usually appear in dangerous situations. Patriarch Yen was called away by Patriarch Jin, and the two of them chatted for a long time. Later, Ji Yi joined in. He glanced at Shi Shang from time to time, but every time he did, he was stuffed with dog food. Did she come here to show off her love? Finally, the banquet started. His Majesty was indeed in high spirits. He came out surrounded by people and thanked everyone for their concern. After a lot of nonsense, he finally got to the main topic of the day. He announced who would be the crown prince. There were only 3 candidates in the royal family: the eldest prince, the second prince, and the third prince. At this time, the eldest prince and the third prince were both present. The eldest prince looked aggressive and arrogant, and he was determined to get the throne. He kept shooting glances at the third prince. The third prince didn't want to pay attention to the eldest prince, so he stood on the other side and blocked the eldest prince's line of sight with other people. The eldest prince snorted. As for the second prince, he was still nowhere to be seen. The crowd couldn't help but whisper. The second prince really didn't care about the throne. He didn't even come to such an important occasion. However, His Majesty would probably not choose the second prince. If the empire were to be married off to someone who was obsessed with Mecca, would there still be a future for the empire? The main reason I called everyone here today is to announce the crown prince. I'm sure everyone wants to know. His Majesty the Lucky Mascot's voice successfully silenced the discussion below. I have a total of 4 children. The 4th child left early, and the 2nd child is a good-for-nothing. This crown prince. His Majesty the Mascot's gaze moved back and forth between the first prince and Shangguan Pu before finally stopping on the first prince. The first prince immediately raised his head and puffed out his chest. His face was already filled with pride. He was the eldest son, so the throne should have been his. This crown prince. His Majesty the Mascot sighed. The third prince, Shangguan Pu. The smug expression on the first prince's face froze. He widened his eyes and looked at the person above in disbelief. Why third brother? Congratulations, third prince. Congratulations, third prince. Congratulations. Congratulations. The people around him surrounded the third prince so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. There were only a few people on his side. At this moment, it was a bit awkward. He didn't know whether to continue standing there or go up to congratulate the third prince. After all, the crown prince had already been decided. In the future, the third prince would definitely be in charge of the empire. The first prince's initial shock turned into a ferocious expression. Father. The first prince took a few steps towards the high platform, even forgetting his etiquette. Father, I am the eldest son. Why should third brother be the crown prince? Faced with his eldest son's angry questioning, His Majesty the Mascot's face also darkened. Whoever is chosen as the crown prince is agreed upon by everyone in the parliament. It is not my decision alone. Third brother was able to gain the approval of so many people in the parliament. It is his ability. You should also reflect on what you have done in the past few years. What I have done. The first prince approached His Majesty step by step. His eyes were red as he questioned, I have been working hard, but father doesn't even have me in your eyes. In the past, you only had fourth brother in your eyes. Now that fourth brother is dead, you only see third brother. When have you ever seen my existence? What are you trying to do? Go down. His Majesty the Mascot shouted. However, not only did the first prince not go down, but he also pressed on. Father, you forced me to do this. His Majesty the Mascot's expression changed. Gods, gods. The first prince suddenly grabbed His Majesty the Mascot's neck and used him as a shield. He shouted angrily at the people below who were preparing to save him, Let's see who dares to move. He gave his people a look. That person immediately went out and quickly brought the army in. They surrounded the venue. Today, he had prepared for both sides. This unforeseen event was probably out of everyone's expectations. For a moment, no one acted rashly. Patriarch Yen and a few others stood in the middle of the crowd and watched this unfold. They had no intention of stepping out. Eldest brother, let go of father first. We can talk things over. Shangguan-pu had no choice but to step out. He is our father. You can't treat him like this. Talk things over. The first prince grabbed His Majesty the mascot and stepped back. If I let go of him, can you talk things over? Do you think I am a 3-year-old child? Eldest brother, if you want the crown prince, I will give it to you. Let go of father first. Shangguan-pu's face was firm. The first prince's eyes were filled with anger and jealousy. Third brother, stop acting like you are giving me charity. I don't want your charity. He spoke as if he didn't want the crown prince and threw it to him. Shangguan-pu. First prince, are you trying to usurp the throne? Usurp the throne? How can I be so stupid? The first prince sneered. Of course I won't usurp the throne. I will make father admit that I am the crown prince. I am so disappointed in you. His Majesty the mascot had difficulty speaking. His face was ashen. All these years, you have been so arrogant. You don't listen to other people's opinions and are stubborn. Your personality is not suitable for the throne at all. So what if I am arrogant? Isn't Shi Shang the same? She can make so many people fear her. Why can't I? Speaking of arrogance, there was clearly someone more arrogant. He was a prince. So what if he was a little arrogant? Didn't he have the right to be so? Shi Shang, who was standing in the corner and watching the show, was suddenly called out. I was being attacked even when I was lying down? What does it have to do with I? Can you compare to her? His Majesty the mascot was also angry. What kind of strength does she have? What kind of background does she have? What kind of strength do you have? Can you make an entire galaxy fear you? Can you tear a super mecha apart with your bare hands? Do you still think the royal family is the same as before? Not to mention the Shi family, they didn't even dare to provoke the other families. They had to be polite when they met. This unfilial son was actually learning from that person. I am a prince. Why can't I compare to her? The first prince was very unconvinced. He sneered. Father, you are biased. Don't think that I don't know what you said to third brother. Do you think that you can rest easy after handing the empire to him? If he really inherits the throne, the empire will be finished sooner or later. Just because you are not as good looking as me, you can't compare to me on this point. Asterisk vote, vote. Monthly votes and recommendation votes. Ah. Chapter 1914. The crowd parted, revealing a figure standing in the corner. Against the light, the girl's expression was hidden. She took a few steps forward, her entire face exposed to the air as she looked at them expressionlessly. She was indeed good-looking, but what was the use? They were even afraid of looking at her from afar. The girl's clear voice rang out again. Please, don't drag me into everything. It wasn't time for her to go on stage yet. If she suddenly appeared, she would have to be paid. The eldest prince didn't see Shi Shang earlier and thought that she hadn't come. Who knew that she would suddenly appear? His heart was in his mouth. But on second thought, he didn't say anything bad about her. What was there to be afraid of? The scene was silent. The air seemed to have stopped moving, and the atmosphere was strange. Continue. Shi Shang waved his hand. Continue. Why are you looking at me? Will this end just because you're looking at me? Everyone. Didn't we think you were going to cause trouble? The eldest prince saw that Shi Shang had retreated and didn't want to waste any more time. Father, you saw it too. The entire palace is now under my control. You have to think carefully. Who should be the crown prince? His Majesty the lucky mascot couldn't breathe. Do you really want to do this? The eldest prince didn't answer, but his expression made it clear that he had to do this. The political situation in the underworld galaxy was unstable, and news couldn't be delivered in time. This was his best chance. Father, hurry up and make a decision. Otherwise... The eldest prince's eyes flashed, and the veins on the back of his hand bulged. Otherwise, he would have to usurp the throne. You... His Majesty the Lucky Mascot's expression became uglier. It seemed that he couldn't breathe because of the eldest prince's choking. The people below were nervous and asked the eldest prince to let go of His Majesty. The eldest prince seemed to realize that something was wrong with His Majesty and loosened his grip. However, His Majesty's condition didn't improve. He fell to the ground and clawed at his throat. He couldn't breathe, and his face was full of pain. Father. Shangguan-Pu was the first to rush up and push the eldest prince aside. Father, what's wrong? His Majesty grabbed Shangguan-Pu's hand, his chest rising and falling rapidly. His eyes were about to pop out. After a few seconds, His Majesty lowered his hand. Father, Imperial Father. The first prince looked at his hand in a daze. He had not used much strength just now. How could this be? His Majesty had died with his eyes wide open, and he was looking in the direction of the first prince. The first prince looked a little scared, and he took a few steps back to stand with his people. First prince, you killed His Majesty. No. The first prince shook his head. He hadn't killed his father. Although he had thought about it, he hadn't killed his father. It wasn't me. So many of us saw it with our own eyes. First prince, are you still trying to deny it? First prince, His Majesty is your father. How can you be so heartless? Faced with the accusations of so many people, the first prince's expression kept changing. In the end, he decided to go all the way. Tie them all up. Since things had turned out this way, he had to get the throne today. The people behind the first prince immediately moved, closing in on the group of people. In the blink of an eye, the situation was extremely chaotic. Not only did the first prince get people to surround the place, he also tampered with the wine. Many people felt dizzy the moment they started fighting, and their limbs went soft as they were captured. At this moment, everyone understood that the first prince had premeditated this. If His Majesty had announced him as the crown prince, then there would be no accidents today. If not, then he would rebel. Today, none of you will be able to walk out of here. The first prince sneered. Tie them all up. Despicable. First prince, you are a shameless person. Big brother you. Shangguan-Pu and the others were the same. Their limbs went soft, and they half knelt on the ground. It was as if they had to gasp for breath to speak. How can you do this? I already said that I can give you this position. The first prince didn't seem to want to listen to Shangguan-Pu's nonsense. He called for people to tie him up. The more these people scolded, the happier the first prince was. So what if he was despicable and shameless? Despicable and shameless could get him this position that he had always dreamed of. First prince. That person from the Shi family. What should they do? The first prince's good mood was instantly ruined. He looked at the corner. Shi Shang was still sitting there, as if he didn't care about what was happening here. The first prince walked straight to Shi Shang. Master Shi, this has nothing to do with you. You can leave. If he had any other choice, he wouldn't want to offend this woman. He should be glad that she didn't like to meddle in other people's business. Shi Shang seemed a little surprised. Can't I stay and watch the show? It's not that you can't, but it won't be good if you accidentally hurt the master. The first prince tried to make his words sound more tactful. Don't worry, no one can hurt me. Shi Shang's voice was confident and arrogant, and even a little smug. It made people want to beat him up. The first prince. Since Shi Shang had said so, what else could the first prince say? He called for the people from the 6 great families. He knew that these people couldn't be offended, so he apologized very politely. He also said that as long as they didn't interfere today, he would let them leave immediately. Master Yan's expression didn't look good, but he didn't argue with the first prince. The 6 great families had never been involved in the feuds of the royal family. Since the first prince understood this rule, they would naturally give him face. But Master Yen proposed the same condition as Shi Sheng. They wouldn't leave for the time being. The first prince was very angry, but he didn't dare to offend the 6 great families. He could only let them stay. The Mu family and the Zong family originally wanted to leave, but Master Yen and the others stayed, so the 2 families didn't know why. The first prince had secretly instigated a lot of people. This time, he was fully prepared to force the emperor to abdicate. Shangguan Pu didn't seem to have thought of this. He was too shocked and couldn't think for a moment. You have 2 choices now. The first is to submit to me, and the second is to die. The first prince walked in front of the group of people who were tied up. Choose. You killed your father and stole the throne. You will suffer retribution. We will never acknowledge a vicious person who killed his father and stole the throne as our emperor. Kill us. I didn't kill him. Speaking of killing his father and stealing the throne, the first prince was still a little agitated. His eyes were red as he roared. Who knows why that old bastard suddenly died? Don't forget that when I let him go, he was still breathing. Everyone was strangely silent for a while. The situation just now seemed to be playing in slow motion. When His Majesty fell to the ground, the first prince had already let go of His Majesty, but His Majesty still felt like someone was strangling his neck. Asterisk. This is a fake group. Little Fairy, today I will tell you a story. Little A and Little B were friends. Today, Little A went to Little B's house to play and took a nap at noon. When Little A woke up, she felt like vomiting. She felt strange and asked Little B, but Little B said her sleeping posture was wrong. Little A said it was impossible. She had never felt like this before. Little B said she might have bumped into a ghost. The next day, Little A died. The end of the drama, ha ha ha. Chapter 1915. Everyone was confused. If it wasn't the Crown Prince, how did His Majesty die? No, it might be the Crown Prince's doing. This might be the Crown Prince's way of getting rid of the crime of killing his own father. They felt that this analysis made sense and was in line with the current situation. Therefore, the Crown Prince's words didn't bring him any benefits. Instead, it made them even more certain that he was the one who killed His Majesty. Shut up, all of you. The Crown Prince kicked the table beside him. You're about to die and you still have the time to care about other things. It seems like you're not afraid of death. I'll give you one last chance. Make your choice. No one said a word. Patriarch Yen, what should we do now? Jean, she whispered to Patriarch Yen as he looked at the scene. Patriarch Yen glanced at Shi Sheng. Wait. How long do we have to wait? Jean, she was a little impatient. He turned to the other side and slapped Ji Yi on the shoulder. Patriarch Ji, what are you thinking about? Ji Yi was startled by the sudden pat. He looked up and shook his head after a while. Nothing. Jean, she was a little suspicious, but his brain didn't have enough capacity for him to think too much. He quickly changed the topic. The Crown Prince had already done so. Therefore, most people were extremely uncooperative. The Crown Prince was so angry that he stomped his feet. Just as he was about to make an example out of them, his men rushed in from outside. Crown Prince, something bad has happened. Someone is attacking us. The eldest prince turned around abruptly and grabbed the messenger. Who is it? I don't know. I don't know them, but they're very powerful. The messenger was pale with fright. Our men are no match for them. You don't know them? The Crown Prince was a little dizzy. How could there be a force that he didn't know? He had already controlled everything in the imperial capital. Those that he couldn't control were attracted by his men. Who was it? He subconsciously looked in the direction of the 6 great families. No, the people from the 6 great families were easy to recognize. It couldn't be them. The dragon-slaying guards were even easier to recognize. The group of unlucky people who were tied up whispered to the people around them when they heard that something had happened. "Someone is attacking us? Are you here to save us? Could it be that someone is trying to take advantage of the situation?" No one answered their suspicions. When the great prince saw that the person could not explain, he hurriedly walked out, preparing to personally take a look. Someone outside recorded a video and came back. The first prince took a look and saw that the people in the video were all wearing the same uniform. However, he had never seen such attire before. These people seemed to have appeared out of thin air, and their methods were extremely cruel as they charged in his direction. From the video, it could be seen that these people had extraordinary skills and had received uniform training. The first prince sent soldiers to intercept them, but the result was shocking. All the soldiers actually made way for them, and in the end, they followed behind them and killed their way back. The first prince was dumbfounded. No matter how many troops he sent out, the result would be the same. When the army approached the palace, the first prince returned to the banquet hall, scared witless. However, the banquet hall was filled with blood. The people he had threatened to kill were all lying in pools of blood with their eyes wide open. And standing in the pool of blood was someone he did not expect. "It's you!" Mubai turned around and smiled slightly. His elegant voice rang out, "Greetings, Your Highness." Mubai was still holding a sword dripping with blood. There was no need to guess who had done this to the corpses on the floor. "You were the one who brought those people here." The first prince's voice was hoarse. "What did you do to my army?" He had met this man once before, and at that time he had helped him. Therefore, he was shocked to see him in such a situation. How could it be him? "Your Highness, you're wrong. I didn't bring those people here." Mubai maintained his smile and turned to face the first prince. "It was you. Mr. Mu, don't forget Master's words." A few people darted out from the shadows and interrupted him, using their threatening eyes to look at him. Mubai sighed. "These people are really annoying. Kill everyone here." The person on the other side ordered. The only people left were the first prince's people, the third prince who was lying on the floor, the 6 great clans, Shi Shang, and Feng Xi. When they said everyone, they definitely included Shi Shang. The head of the Yen family held back Jin Shi, who was trying to rush over, and looked over there without saying a word. Shi Shang hadn't made a move yet, and there was no news from Caesar either. They couldn't make a move yet. Mubai looked down at the blood-stained sword in his hand. Kill Shi Shang. If he dared to make a move against Shi Shang, wouldn't that be suicide? He wasn't that stupid. "Mr. Mu, do it." The person on the other side impatiently urged Mubai to do it. "As you wish." Mubai turned around and gave the person on the other side his trademark smile. The person on the other side only felt that Mubai's smile was strange. Why was he smiling at them? Then, they saw Mubai suddenly rushing towards them. Poochie, plop. A few sounds were heard, and several corpses fell to the ground at the same time. The first prince was shocked. What was this? Internal strife? "Mubai, I knew you didn't come back with good intentions." Mu-Yi rushed out. "What do you want to do?" Mubai walked over from the corpses, still smiling. "It's obvious that I'm killing people, and the person I just killed ordered me to kill all of you." "So, Lord Mu, you should thank me. If there's one thing that perverts have in common, it should be shamelessness." Mubai and Shi Shang's shamelessness were taught by the same master. Mubai was elegant and shameless, while Shi Shang's shamelessness was sarcastic and sarcastic. At the same time, she also wanted you to die. Mu-Yi didn't appreciate it at all. "You killed so many innocent people. Don't tell me it was to save us. What's your intention?" "I was just following orders." "Following whose orders?" "How do I know if you're telling the truth or not?" "Since you were following orders, why did you kill those people?" Mu-Yi's question was also the same as everyone else's. "Because I don't want to follow orders anymore." He wanted to turn over a new leaf and be a good young man. Mu-Yi coldly snorted, "Even if there's someone behind you, if you don't follow orders, then so be it." Do you think the person behind you is a fool? Your Highness, he said you're a fool. As soon as these words came out, even the first prince looked at Shangguan-pu, who was still lying on the ground in disbelief. Mr. Mu, what do you mean by this? Shangguan-pu's face was full of doubts. In a place where everyone couldn't see, his fingers were tightly clenched, suppressing his anger. Mu Bai's mouth evoked an elegant smile. Your Highness, except for your dear brother and the Mu clan's Lord Zhong, the rest of the people here know that you're the one behind the scenes, so you don't have to pretend anymore, my dear Highness. Shangguan-pu's eyes swept in the direction of the 6 great clans. The Mu and Zhong clans were shocked, but the Yan clan's people didn't change, not to mention that perverted Shi Shang. Chapter 1916. Looks like I've underestimated the Shi family head. Shangguan-pu tore off his disguise and stood up from the ground. His fingers clasped his sleeves and a sharp aura emanated from him. He was no longer the humble and polite third prince. You flatter me. Shangguan-pu narrowed his eyes and put his hands behind his back. I wonder if the Shi family head can decipher the secret for me. What secret do you want me to decipher? What is the true meaning of death? The voice came from behind Shangguan-pu. His back was covered in a layer of cold sweat. Before he could turn around, his shoulders sank and he fell to the ground uncontrollably. The floor was probably broken by air pressure. The broken pieces pierced into his knees and pain engulfed him. A young girl's face appeared in his sight. Her face was bright and beautiful. She had a smile on her face and it was even more stunning. When did she appear behind him? Why didn't he feel anything? The sword on his shoulder was pressing down on him and he couldn't breathe. The coldness seemed to seep into his bones and his soul was trembling in fear. Shi Shang, I don't mean to be your enemy. Shangguan-pu quickly said. Yes, you don't mean to be my enemy. Shi Shang pressed him to the ground. You just want to kill me. You wanted to kill me in the virtual world and now in the real world. Do you think I'm so easy to deal with? The iron sword slashed Shangguan-pu's neck. You better hide well. Otherwise, this will be your fate if I find you. Shangguan-pu's head was chopped off and the wires inside were exposed. Everyone. It was actually a fake. Shi Shang kept the iron sword, jumped off the stage and left with Feng Ci. Everyone was dumbfounded. That was it. F***ck. Why did they feel like nothing had happened? Was time frozen just now? Mu Bai took the opportunity to escape when they weren't paying attention. Although Shi Shang got rid of the fake Shangguan-pu, the attacks outside didn't stop. Shi Shang didn't have any intention to help and disappeared after leaving. His Majesty was dead, and the third prince was promoted to the final boss. Now, only the first prince could make the decisions. As for the members of the royal family who were responsible for strategizing, they were all dead. Most of the people around the first prince were useless. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been hooked by the first prince to stand on his side. Faced with the current situation, no one could come up with a useful plan. Under the attacks of those people, the royal family could only retreat again and again. Shi Shang listened to Shen Xing's report with an unreadable expression. Shen Xing didn't dare to speak after he finished speaking. He carefully observed Shi Shang's expression. Shi Shang was thinking about what had happened before. Shangguan-pu should have known that the first prince was going to rebel, but he did not stop him. Instead, he took advantage of the situation and killed the emperor. Yes, there was no doubt that Shangguan-pu was responsible for His Majesty's death. At that time, the eldest prince had already let go of the emperor, but the emperor still died. It could only be that he had been drugged in advance. Why did Shangguan-pu frame the first prince? He wanted to borrow the first prince's hand to get rid of those people. As for why he wanted to get rid of them, no one knew. However, something might have happened later. Shangguan-pu changed his strategy and ordered his people to attack the capital star. Mu Bai appeared suddenly. As soon as he appeared, he killed those people. After that, he might have wanted to let Mu Bai and her fight until both of them were injured. Then, he would kill them all in one fell swoop. Shi Shang had always been unable to figure out Mu Bai's strength. He had almost never used his full strength. He either ran or followed his heart. Who knew that Mu Bai would betray him halfway and betray him? For someone like Mu Bai, who would betray him at the slightest disagreement, he didn't know where Shangguan Pu got his courage from. He dared to control someone like Mu Bai to do things for him. He might not even know when he would be bitten. Somewhere in the galaxy, a battleship floated quietly in the galaxy. Shangguan Pu flew into a rage at the people standing in front of him. Who told you to act without permission? The subordinate lowered his head and felt wronged. Your Highness, didn't you order us to act? When did I give you the order? Shangguan Pu was going crazy. He didn't plan to attack the capital star at that time, but these people suddenly attacked. And Mu Bai, thinking of Mu Bai, Shangguan Pu's face darkened. Did you catch Mu Bai? It must be Mu Bai. He was the one behind this. At the banquet, he suddenly appeared and killed those people. He didn't give the order at all. At that time, he didn't want to expose himself, so he asked Mu Bai to kill the rest. Who knew that he would suddenly be identified? No. Trash. Shangguan Pu slapped that person's face. Give me the controller. The subordinate who was slapped immediately left. After a while, he returned with a rectangular chip that was as thin as paper. Shangguan Pu snatched the chip and tried to control it. However, the chip kept popping out. The target was out of control, so he couldn't send the command. Damn it! Shi Shang was already giving him a headache. Now, Mu Bai, who was under his control, was also out of control. Everything seemed to be going in a bad direction. Your Highness, what should we do now? Shangguan Pu looked at one of them and asked, Can't we restart the mainframe without the code? Yes, Your Highness. We need the complete code to restart the mainframe, that person replied respectfully. He only had a third of the code in his hands. It was with this third that he was able to format 0 and input the new command. However, because the code was incomplete, 0 was far inferior to before. The other third was with Mu Bai, who had been unwilling to give it to him. He couldn't find it no matter how hard he tried. Instead, he took advantage of the loophole. The other third of them were among the people that Mu Bai had killed at the banquet. He had originally planned to let his elder brother capture them first, and then he would find a suitable opportunity to rescue them. He had saved their lives, and with the current situation, he was 80% sure that he would be able to get the code. However, those people were all dead now. Mu Bai must have known about this. That was why he killed them. Shangguan Pu clenched his fists. Activate Plan B and attack. Yes. Caesar somehow managed to persuade the Red Crescent Galaxy. With Admiral Carol Baines as the leader, they forced their way to the Nether Galaxy and seemed to have destroyed one of Shangguan Pu's bases. After that, Patriarch Yen brought people to meet up with them and started the war with Shangguan Pu. Shangguan Pu quickly occupied the capital star and set up a defense line outside it. Shangguan Pu seemed to have mastered some new technology. Caesar's team couldn't do anything to him for the time being. The two sides were in a stalemate. Every day, they would send people out to fight and end the battle hastily. However, it was obvious that Shangguan Pu had been planning this for a long time. He had many combat robots in his hands. If one batch died, another batch would replace it. He wasn't afraid of sacrificing himself at all. After Shangguan Pu occupied the capital star, he quickly occupied the energy planets around the capital star. What surprised Shi Shang was that Shangguan Pu didn't show up at all. He didn't know where he was hiding, but he hid well. #hashtag today's vote for the fragrance of the herb #little cuties. Please move your little hands and cast your monthly votes. Vote for me too. It's useless for you to keep it anyway. Chapter 1917. Master, Shangguan Pu seems to have controlled a lot of people. Spark said crisply, these people looked normal before, but as soon as they entered the battlefield, they immediately changed sides. If it weren't for this, Shangguan-pu wouldn't have had the upper hand now. Shi Shang rested his chin on his hand. What's so strange about this? Zero helped him before. Spock tilted his head and thought for a while. Zero might have brainwashed these people before, but he didn't immediately make them become like those people. Instead, he set up a hint, and when someone used this hint, they would obey. It was very magical. Then what should we do now? Spock asked. Let's wait. When Shangguan-pu came out, he would kill him. Aren't we going to fight? The Zhanlong guards were very depressed that they couldn't participate in such a big thing. Shi Shang thought for a moment. Let the Zhanlong guards drag the alliance down. If there's a fight, we should fight together. Caesar and Shangguan-pu were fighting fiercely, but the alliance was seizing the time to recover. It was obvious that they wanted to take advantage of the situation. Spock. Master is up to no good again. Brother Feng. Spock saw Feng Ci come in, stuck out his tongue, and ran out quickly. Why do you seem to be in a bad mood these days? Feng Ci sat next to Shi Shang and asked softly. Am I? Shi Shang blinked. Feng Ci nodded seriously. Yes. Shi Shang's eyes darkened for a while. Maybe I've been dreaming of Summer Chu recently. Ha! Shi Shang smiled. Are you jealous? Feng Ci's eyes dimmed, and his voice seemed to be lowered a little. What do you think? Shi Shang stared at him for a few seconds and said slowly, but she's dead. Feng Ci was speechless. You didn't have to promise her at that time. Why, Claire, sometimes it's not good to know a person too well. Shi Shang leaned back against the sofa and relaxed. I've known Summer Chu for many years. I know what her every expression means, and I know whether she's serious or joking. She didn't want to live like that, but I couldn't help it. Shi Shang suddenly choked. After a while she continued, but I can't bring her back to life. She doesn't want to come back to life. If I never open that Rubik's Cube, she might live there alone, hoping that one day I can find her. Claire, should I not go? That was the first time Feng Ci had seen the vulnerability in Shi Shang's eyes. It was so obvious, like a child's. Feng Ci stood up and pulled Shi Shang into his arms. She's just waiting for you to give her relief. It's not your fault. On the surface, she did not care about Xia Chu, but in her heart, she could not bear to part with her. She knew very well that Xia Chu had asked her to go to relieve herself, but she still felt sad for her. Although she tried her best to suppress it and did not show it, she was still a human. It wasn't that she didn't have any feelings, it was just that she had hidden them so deeply that no one could see them. He should be thankful that her love for him was always on the surface, passionate and warm. Xiao Shang, don't be sad. You still have me. I'll accompany you through life and death. I'm not sad. Shi Shang's muffled voice sounded. Okay, you're not sad. Feng Ci followed Shi Shang's words. He gently patted her back and sighed in his heart. A little discomfort from her could make him let go of the grudge in his heart. Forget it. Who asked him to fall in love with her first? Shi Shang hugged Feng Ci and rubbed against him for a long time. When she let go of him, there was no abnormality, as if what happened before was just his illusion. Feng Ci pursed his lips and walked back to sit down. In order not to let her continue to think about Xia Chu, he changed the topic. Xiao Shang, how do you know that Shangguan-pu is the mastermind behind the scenes? There were many things that she would not tell him if he didn't ask, but if he wanted to know, she would tell him without reservation. Shi Shang said, Do you remember the fire on Frost Moon Street? Feng Ci nodded. He had a deep impression of the fire at that time. During the 12 summits, in order to ensure everyone's safety, strict inspections are required to enter and exit, and even the ports are closed. Who do you think can enter the capital star under such circumstances without being found out? That was a warning her not to meddle in other people's business. After that, the group of interstellar pirates probably wanted to kill her, but unfortunately, the result was not what they wanted. At that time, Mubai said, He chose me and gave me the power to go in and kill you, then set me free. There was nothing wrong with this statement, but later on, he called her the mastermind. He purposely distinguished her to prove that the mastermind was different from the person who gave him the power. At first, she did not pay much attention to it, but later on, when she realized that Zero was a little stupid, she thought of what he said before. Later on, when Zero did not recognize her, it was even more suspicious. Compared to Mu Bai, who was an honest villain, Caesar's words were full of lies. He carried forward the "not a word should be believed" series. He already knew who the mastermind was, but he kept making her think that it was Zero. Because he realized that he could not kill her, Shangguan-pu took a step back and reached a consensus with Caesar again. Shi Shang wanted to stall for time, Caesar wanted to do the same, and Shangguan-pu also wanted to do the same. All three parties wanted to stall for time, so they reached a consensus. In the virtual world, the protagonists became inexplicable. It was obvious that Zero was playing tricks and wanted to kill her in the virtual world. But there was one thing that Shi Shang did not understand. Whether it was Caesar, Mu Bai, Zero, or Shangguan-pu, they were scheming against her or targeting her, but they would not do anything to Feng Ci. Feng Ci was like a taboo that could not be touched. When Shi Shang's imagination ran wild, he even felt that this was actually a trap set up by Feng Ci, and he was the final boss. Then why are you standing by now? Couldn't they just go and destroy Shangguan-pu's team? She was good at this kind of thing. Why was she waiting here now? Claire, don't you understand? Feng Ci put on an innocent look, indicating that he did not know. After all, he did not care about this matter. All he cared about was whether she was safe. Caesar is using me. Shi Shang spoke. Right now, Shangguan-pu's group is still expanding. Caesar knew this from the start. When he faked his death, Shangguan-pu was probably already someone he couldn't touch. That's why he put in so much effort to pull me onto his ship. Of course I'm going to stand by and watch. She now suspected that he was involved in the Xia family's incident. Otherwise, how could it be so coincidental that he met Ji Dai who escaped with Xia Chu? When Xia Chu and Caesar knew each other, she might not suspect anything and just think it was a coincidence. But now, standing in her position, there were not so many coincidences. As honest as Mu Bai was, it was not unreasonable for him to have fans. Chapter 1918. Inside the Crimson Crescent Galaxy's warship. Caesar and Carlo stood in front of the galactic map with ugly expressions. They had been in a stalemate with Shangguan-pu for too long. Shangguan-pu had the upper hand from the start, and more than half of the Nether Galaxy was under his command. Your Excellency Caesar, if this continues, we won't have an easy time. Carlo waved his hand, and the galactic map disappeared into thin air. He leaned on the silver-white metal table and said with a cold expression, "I've lost too many men. Morale is unstable." Shangguan-pu's combat robots were too difficult to deal with. More importantly, there were too many of them. It was not that Carlo had no confidence in himself. It was mainly because his army would occasionally go out of control. Back then, the Zero invasion was all-encompassing. The Crimson Crescent Galaxy's losses were small, but it did not mean that there were no losses at all. Carlo was also very frustrated by the current situation. These people did not seem to have any abnormalities before they betrayed him. It was just that they would suddenly betray him in an instant, and he was often caught off guard. He had lost to Shangguan-pu's people in this way several times. "Try not to let more people know about our future battle plans," Caesar said. "Your Excellency Caesar, do you really think we can win?" Carlo's heart was shaken. Shangguan-pu, this unremarkable prince, had done so many things in secret. Caesar's eyes darkened. "We have to find a way to lure Shangguan-pu out." "Why?" Carlo looked at Caesar in confusion. "She will only act when he appears." Caesar knew Shi Shang very well. He had schemed against her so many times, and she would never help him. However, Shangguan-pu was different. He had always wanted to kill her, and she would not let him go. Her Carlo was confused at first, but then he realized. He gritted his teeth and said, Shi Shang bombed the capital planet of the Crimson Crescent Galaxy. I'm not done with her. She said that she would return Silver Fox to him, but he had not seen Silver Fox's shadow until now. In fact, this was the main point. If he had Silver Fox, he would not have been beaten so badly by Shang Guanpu's people. General Carlo, do you know why you've never been a match for Shi Shang? The man lowered his head, revealing his handsome face, and there seemed to be a trace of a grin on his lips. Carlo was stunned. Then he asked, Why? The man raised his head, his blonde hair swaying. When he raised his head, his index finger brushed past his lips. Because you couldn't hold it in. If Shi Shang were here, she would be able to remain calm even if Shang Guanpu came to the door. I lost my cool? Carlo pointed at himself, but he didn't say anything for a long time. After a while, Carlo put down his hand and asked, Does Mr. Caesar have any good ideas? I'll have to trouble General Carlo to send a message to Patriarch Yen. Carol came out with the things Caesar gave him with a strange expression. He handed them to his subordinates and asked them to deliver them to Patriarch Yen. The messenger had just left when another person hurried over. His face was covered in cold sweat. General, the Zhanlong guards are here. Carol almost choked. Who are you talking about? Zhanlong guards. What were the Zhanlong guards doing here at this time? Who are you looking for? Carol stopped the thoughts in his head. They're looking for you. Carol's mind was filled with questions. Why were the Zhanlong guards looking for him at this time and place? Was that pervert Shi Shang here too? What was she trying to do? The Zhanlong guards stood in a row. There weren't many of them, but each of them was as sharp as an unsheathed sword. Carol approached them suspiciously. Why are you looking for me? General Carlo. The Zhanlong guards nodded. Patriarch sent us to deliver Silver Fox to you. Silver Fox? Where is it? Carlo looked behind him, but all he could see was the endless starry sky. He couldn't see anything. Where is it? The Zhanlong guards pointed. Carol looked over. It was still the same endless sky. Patriarch said that she was the one who brought Silver Fox back. Hence, she wants to trouble General Carlo to retrieve it yourself. It's outside. Goodbye. Carol was speechless. He didn't know if he should curse or not. Carol told Caesar about this, but Caesar only looked at him sympathetically and said, She's already being polite by not taking it apart and returning it to you. Carol had no choice but to retrieve his Silver Fox. What was wrong with him? Why did he throw Silver Fox outside? He didn't know how Shi Shang managed to retrieve Silver Fox, but he almost lost half his life trying to retrieve Silver Fox. Carlo took back Silver Fox. With the Super Mecha, their team finally had some chance of winning. Coupled with Caesar's adjustment of tactics and the cooperation of the head of the Yen family, they managed to force Shang Guanpu's team to retreat. However, this was far from enough to lure Shang Guanpu out. Caesar's team had just made some progress when the alliance suddenly went crazy. Although they joined the battle, they also messed up the situation that Caesar had just planned. The alliance was an organization formed by 4 galaxies. Their battle power was naturally not weak. With them joining, Shang Guanpu seemed to be a little restricted. This chaos lasted for a few months until Caesar and the alliance reached an agreement. They then united against Shang Guanpu. The battle line finally stopped at the border of the Netherworld star system. Almost all the nearby energy planets were occupied by Shang Guanpu. This was very disadvantageous for Caesar. The only ones that weren't occupied were the assets of the Shi family. Shi Shang, who had watched this group of people fight for a few months, obviously wouldn't give any energy to any of them. Instead, the energy planet became a pure land, attracting many refugees. However, the Shi family didn't accept any of them. Who knew if there were spies planted by Shang Guanpu? What if they blew up the planet? Because of this, there were all sorts of private spaceships parked outside the energy planet. They probably realized that the flames of war couldn't spread here, so they just stopped outside the energy planet. Patriarch, there are more and more refugees. Are we just going to sit here and do nothing? The Zhonlong guards came in to report. There were more and more refugees these few days. Now, it was causing trouble for them. The energy planet was about to be affected. Can't stand it? Then blow them up. Shi Shang replied casually. He didn't care about these people's names. The Zhonlong guards choked. Shi Shang continued, "You can settle these small matters yourselves. Shi Feng isn't here, so don't be like headless flies. Didn't Shi Feng teach you how to deal with problems?" The Zhonlong guards, they hadn't seen the executive officer for so long. Where did he go? Of course, the Zhonlong guards didn't dare to ask. They could only leave. According to Shi Feng's usual style, they were thinking about what to do. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.